My name is, because it says to stop broadcasting, press the share button and then select broadcast settings. It tells me the broadcast has started. I'm hoping somebody can tell me if it has. So am I up and running or what? No, but can anyone hear anything? So can anyone hear me? That's what I want to know. So on the website, are they hearing me? Because obviously I don't want to sound silly. I believe so. But what I'm saying now, are people hearing? Because obviously at the moment I've just got... That's fine, that's okay. I've got the screen that I want to have, so that's fine. So good evening everybody. If you're just tuning in to the GAVRA Racing YouTube channel, what you're watching tonight is the finale of the GT3 championships, which have been running over 7 previous rounds. This is round 8 of 8. So obviously we're into round 8 of 8. Usual format, 2 races tonight. 1 normal or longer standard race, which we've got a 24 lap race around the circuit of the Americas, followed by what I would call a sprint, which is an 8 lap race, again over the circuit of the Americas. So this is our last race. Again, like I say, in the new, I say new, it's sort of like 4 or 5 years old now, this circuit, since it was built. But in terms of motor racing, it's a pretty new circuit. Probably more preferable for open wheel racing rather than GT racing, but it will make for a reasonable spectacle as well, I think. A fitting finale to what has been quite an eventful season in GT3. So basically what we're looking at now, we're seeing Pong Kanong, wonderful name. We're seeing him going out for his outlap. Obviously what you'll probably see is 1 or 2 of the guys not coming out straight away, just having a look at their last minute settings, trying 1 or 2 things out. I mean, most of the guys are out just doing a bit of a practice, apart from Roberto Diero. And we're looking at Van Elk at the moment, just coming down. He's the championship leader right now. He has a 12-point lead over Razy Real. And in fairness to Van Elk, he's been pretty consistent over the most part of this season. Started off well. I think most races he's pretty much got himself in the top 3 in most of these races. And the second place driver, who is Razy Real, is 12 points behind him, has basically just reeled him in slowly but surely over the course of the season. And just as luck would have it, there's Razy in his nice blue Renault RS01. Again, he's just been chipping away at that lead, and it's down to 12 points as we stand for tonight. So this qualifying will be important, probably the most important qualifying of the season so far, I would say. So we've got obviously a 25-minute qualifying period after this. This is a 10-minute practice just to basically get your tyres warm, get your feet wet, for want of better words. And then obviously we'll have a 25-minute qualifying period then before going into race number 1. So as I said earlier, just to give you a resume, if you've not been with us at all during the course of the season, this is your first visit to us, where have you been? What have you been doing? What have you been missing out on? 7 rounds of 2 races in each round, and some quite interesting racing that goes on during all of these. We try and keep it as clean as possible, but obviously you know what racing is like. Sometimes this happens and people just have this unnecessary urge to swap paint with one another on various corners. But generally speaking, we try and race clean. That's the whole idea of GAVRA Racing. If you don't know that much about us, then pop onto the website gavraRacing.altavisca.org. Altavista.org. Or if you just put GAVRA Racing in your search bar on your Google, or other search engines are available, then just put GAVRA Racing up there. It's probably the first one that comes up. Click on that, goes into the website, have a little wander around. There's plenty on there for you to have a look at and to ingratiate yourself with all things GAVRA Racing. Anyway, we're watching C.O.T.A just going around. These guys having a test. I would imagine they've done plenty of practice already, to be fair. I certainly would have thought so, especially with what's at stake for this evening. So like I say, just to give you a resume on the championship standings, Van Elk from the Netherlands is leading with 185 points. Razy, Real and New Zealander, in all fairness to him, is 12-hour time difference. It might be 8:30 at night for us, it's 8:30 in the morning for this guy, so he's got to get up bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, make sure he's well awake. No drinking the night before. I'm sure he doesn't, being a good New Zealander. I'm sure he doesn't touch alcohol. Anyway, he's, oh, there you go, there's deciding to get the crashes in early there, were we? I think that was C.O.T.A who might be going straight back to the pits. Not quite sure who he decided to do that with, but they're going back to the pits. In the meantime, we're seeing Suki there, flying around the track in her Ferrari, which is probably slightly different than what she does for a day job, because she's a paramedic. So obviously, if you want to be in the back of a car, try not to be in the back of a car when she's driving this one, because it's probably not the hospital you're going to get to. But again, quite an accomplished driver in fairness to her. I know she's done a bit of iRacing in the past, so she's got a bit of a pedigree when it comes to sim racing, to be fair to her. But like all of us, we're all getting used to project cars too, and nobody's getting used to it better than this guy. This is your championship leader, Van Elk, and in all fairness to him, consistency has certainly been the key for this guy all throughout the season. But like I said, Razy is reeling him in ever so slowly. He probably wishes there were another 2 or 3 rounds so he could get a bit tighter, a bit closer to him, because 12 points, while it might not seem a lot when you've got 30 points on offer for the winner, race 2 the winner only gets 15 points. So Van Elk's perspective, I think, for tonight, if he's going into this with any sort of game plan, I think his game plan's got to be try and maintain that lead. If he can maintain that lead, he could probably even afford Razy to finish 1 or 2 places ahead of him, as long as it's not first and second, because there's a 6-point gap in that one. But he can probably afford to let Razy tail Razy around the track without doing anything crazy, making sure he commentator's curse, that, isn't it? Doing anything crazy as he decides to do a donut. There we go. You know, commentator's curse, it always works, always, without fail. So he'll probably not do any of that during the race, but hey. But if he finishes race 1 anywhere reasonably, then maintains that lead, then obviously race 2, the winner gets 15, second place gets 12, third place 10, fourth place 9, and then incrementally down each place in 1 point less. So in all fairness, if Van Elk can go into race 2 still with a double-digit lead, then the pressure's on Razy to pull everything out the stops. Because if that happens, then Razy would pretty much have to win and Van Elk would have to come 9th or worse. So it's a toughie for Razy. Race 1 is the most important because there's the most points on offer. Razy needs to go out and finish a good 2 or 3 places ahead of Van Elk to really try and put the pressure on him into race 2 tonight. But in all fairness, I think it's fair to say that Razy's done a pretty damn good job to try and get down to that 12-point margin, considering probably where it was earlier in the season. I know Van Elk got off to a great start as Suki decides to do a bit of drifting round her. And like I say, Van Elk got off to a cracking start. I think Razy, by his own admission, would probably admit that he grew into this championship. Didn't have the most auspicious of starts, but grew into it a bit as Pong decides to do a bit of oversteer going around there. But they may just be testing out a few things here. I'm sure they've done plenty of laps in practice, like I said before. But the adrenaline rushes that you get when you're racing properly, you can't replicate that in practice. I should know as much as anybody. As Flayboy decides to turn his Ferrari into a cow and feed it some grass. It may be a multi-go. No, it's a Lambo. Ah, flipping heck. Send me back to bed. Let me get up again. Dear me. There's no hope for me. No hope whatsoever. Just because it's a multicoloured Lambo. It's like a rainbow on wheels. Anyway, here's Van Elk That's my bad one for tonight. I hope that's my only one, because my broadcaster's laughing in my ear all here. You guys can't hear him, but trust me, he's laughing at me. I will never live that down. I'll get him back one day, promise you. But but it won't be tonight, probably. Probably not tonight. He's just told me he's not his broadcaster. He's my race director. I'm the broadcaster. I know what I'm on about. Leave me alone. So anyway, so as we're watching Van Elk, we're down into the last 14 seconds of practice here. Hopefully the guys have got the feel of the track and how it feels on this particular occasion. Like I say, there's a lot at stake with regards to the top 2 placings. Obviously there's pride at stake for the other placings too. So as we're coming to the end of that, I'll just give you a quick rundown anyway, just to let you know. Fastest practice lap time, not that we can take too much into that, is Suki with a 2:11.2. Van Elk's come in with a 2:11.9. Raisy's done a 2:13.7. Nobody else has done anything. They've all just sat there probably doing their settings, or I don't know, they could be painting their nails for all I know, but I'm sure they're not. But anyway, that's the end of the practice. Time remaining is absolutely diddly squat. So effectively, it's now just a case of the guys getting ready for the real job of work for tonight, which is your 25 minutes of qualifying. And as much as tonight, I personally think if you can get just on the front row, the grid's good enough. But I think this is one of those races where actually coming second gives you a better position on the grid, as Pong decides to do a donut. Fair play. Can I get a bit more sugar on that donut, please? So anyway, a donut to finish practice as Van Elk comes round in his multicoloured, what is it again? Oh yeah, sorry, it's a Lamborghini, isn't it? So here we go. It's in a Ferrari disguised as a Lamborghini, honest. And it's got 157 on the front of it, which, if I remember rightly, is treble 17, treble 20, and double top is a 157 finish. Yes, I used to play darts as well, badly I might add. Anyway, so Van Elk's just wandering around like that. Razy would hope that he would continue to drive like that in the race, but I've got a funny feeling that his race pose is somewhat different, ever so slightly. So everyone's in the pits bar Van Elk. He's making everybody else wait. You know what they say, save the best till last. He's probably hoping that's certainly the case as we go into this. So like I say, this is the climax of the GT3 season. This is what everybody's worked towards. This is what everyone's done. So I'm going to give you some placings anyway. So like I said, Van Elk leads tonight with 185 against Razy Real 12 behind on 173. Those two are the only two that can take a championship this evening. In third place we've got Thomas Ethan 2001. In fourth place we've got Pong Kanong, who you just saw doing some donuts. He's on 120 points. Phoenix 1234 in, who's Van Elk's teammate, is on 104, and Dan, who is Razy's teammate, is on 103. And then we have Joe Black, who is on 94 points, and I'm sure Joe won't mind me saying that as far as I'm aware, he's the elder statesman of the GAVRA racing community, because he is, believe it or not, as the French would say, 62. He's 62. So in all fairness to him, I don't think he drives down the road in his Jag doing like 20 miles an hour on a Sunday afternoon. Not if he likes racing like this. But I'm sure he won't mind me saying that. I hope I can still do it at 62. I hope I can still sit down at 62. But hey, well done, mate. Anyway, in between me waffling like such, we've started with our 30 minutes according to that clock of qualifying. I thought it said 25 minutes on mine, but it would appear off that timer that there is a 30-minute qualifier which is taking place here for this race. So obviously the chief protagonists already out there. Van Elk's out. I think Razy was first out, although I may be corrected, but I know those two boys. I think Van Elk was first, then Razy was second out. So these two guys are going to make as much use of all of this just to see what sort of times they can put down. It'd be interesting to see. I think the first lap obviously is just your out lap. The second lap, they might not push it fully. Lap 3 is usually what I would expect to be a hot lap, depending on what their strategy is for doing their qualifying. That's what I tend to try and do, assuming I don't come off before then. He says hopefully. But we're just watching Van out now. Obviously, like you say, this is the out lap, just trying to warm up a bit, just trying to get some heat into those tyres and probably into those brakes, and just to see how his car's performing. He's probably done plenty of laps in it, so I think he's, as far as settings go, I don't think he'll be doing too much in the way of altering that. I'll be surprised if he does, but they should be quite used to most of these things. But yeah, I am correct. It did say on here qualifying duration 25 minutes, but hey, we've gained an extra 5. I thought I was right. I'm not often wrong, he says. I'm sure plenty of people will argue that one with me. As we are looking at Joe Black. He looks very good for 62. His paintwork's nice. And he's got the 18 on the side of his Mercedes. I think that's a nice SLS AMG. I'm sure I'll stand corrected there if I've got the wrong car. But here we are watching our championship leader again. See who's going to put down the marker for this qualifying session. I would imagine he'd like to put that down, although he doesn't need to take matters too great at the moment. He can take it a little bit easy. He can probably roll around at 80-85% and still achieve what he needs to, but knowing how he's done so far this year, in all fairness to him, I can't see him doing like that. Competition is competition, isn't it? And if you're competitive, then it's a bit difficult to lose that edge. So here we are, Van Elk, multicoloured Lambo, wandering around the track. So we can see here what is going on. Let's have a look and see. So obviously we'll just see now where he comes down to the start-finish straight, as he looks now to be able to get around there and stick some lap times in. And let's see what anyone else can do. So here we go. Let's see if we can get some markers down for everybody to be looking at here. Just about getting that round the tight corner. Coming back in through. Yeah, he's just into the last sector now. So let's have a look. Let's see what we're going to get here. Taking the very tight left-hander there, and around the final corner. So he's coming in. He's got 2 corners to go. This is what I call the semicircle. It's probably got its own name, but for me it's a semicircle anyway. Just coming into a sweeping left-hander, and then into what I would consider to be probably around about an 80-degree last turn into your start-finish straight, running a little bit. Looked as if he was going to run wide. What's your time going to be, my man? What's your time going to be? Let's have a look. So Van Elk puts down a 2:11.8. That's the gauntlet on the floor. I've got a feeling that he'll probably better that as the time goes on. I'm expecting some guys to be getting under 2:10 as time goes on. We've still got 25 minutes as Joe Black decides to do a donut in his Merc. Well done. That's a nice bit of driving there to rectify himself there. Just don't do that on the A470. You'll probably get picked up by the local constabulary and be spending a night in one of their nice hotels. But on a racetrack, yeah, that's cool as long as there's nobody else there. Again, something else that we're pretty hot on is race etiquette. If you go off a track, you don't just pull on straight in front of somebody, although there are still people that do that. So anyway, we're looking at Joe Black just spinning again there. So whether that's, I'm sure he didn't mean to do that, so whether there's something not quite right there with his car, so he's put himself back in the pits. So we're back in the pits with Suki at the moment. I think somebody's been washing the car because it looks nice and shiny. So she might be staying in there. She might be just messing around with a few settings and stuff. I mean, there's still like 20 something minutes left as we're watching Flayboy. So Flayboy is obviously Van Elk's partner in crime. So obviously we can have a look and see what sort of time he's put down. In the meantime, like I said, I told you somebody go under 2:10. Ray's popped in with a 2:09.7, so basically that's him throwing down the gauntlet. He's not that I expected anything else from him. He's turning around and saying, look, this is what I got, this is what I'm bringing to the table. I'm going to bring everything I got. Which in all fairness is all he can do tonight. He can only give his best and see where that takes him. And you know what racing's like. Only takes a bump, only takes somebody coming off, bit of damage into the pits, and that could throw everything up in the air. 12 points is a decent lead, but anything can happen in a race. So anyways, we're watching Flayboy going around. I'd say it'd be interesting to see what sort of times he does against Van Alk, because they're using the same car. Whether they talk to each other and they use the same type of settings, I don't know. But we'll soon find out once he's getting around there. He's just right around the top of the track at the moment. So he's probably about halfway round, I would say, at this stage. Maybe slightly less, actually. But just to give some idea. And we still haven't seen Suki yet in this session. Obviously, this is Flayboy's first. This is going to be his first lap. I don't think it was his out lap, was it? I'm pretty sure it wasn't. I'm sure somebody will tell me on the feed if that's not right. I mean, we've had one message in from Benjamin. We've had one message in from Benjamin saying success, man. Yeah, absolutely. I can totally agree with you on that. Everyone wants success. That's the best thing. If any of you have got anything to say when you're up watching us on here during the course of the race, pop it on the feed. If I can answer you, I will. If I can't, I'll try and acknowledge the fact that you've sent something in, and we can see if we can elaborate a little bit on whatever you're putting up there. So here he comes now. He's into the last 80 degree. No, he's decided not to. He's going back into the pits. There you go. That was an anti-climax, wasn't it? Said the actress to the bishop, but never mind. So here we go with Pong Kanong. Let's see here. So he's in a Beamer. He's in the M6, I believe. I think it's the M6 GTR. Oops! There you go. There you go. If he was going to put a time down there, then I think that just kind of really ruined it for him. He stayed on the track though, in all fairness. So at the moment, everyone else has decided to go back in the pits, bar our championship lead Van Alk, who's probably trying to catch up on Razy because he's 2.3 seconds down. So either it's incredibly good off Razy. So here he comes. He's taken that incredibly wide. Probably lost an awful lot of pace on that because he took it so wide. So what's this gonna look like? I don't think it's gonna be too impressive. No offense to Pong, but it's oh, maybe that was. Yeah, he must have invalidated that as he drifts around the corner, just about holds it together. Probably went too wide and invalidated himself as we look at championship leader Van Alk running round. Got a bit of time to make back up here. 2.359 seconds. So he's got a fair bit to do on Razy. Really, he's just coming into the semicircle now. The long right-hander. Obviously there he'll hit a 90-degree apex left-hander and then about an 80-degree left-hander into the start-finish straight. It's carrying a bit of pace quite smoothly into around that corner using the majority of the track, which is something I should do more of. So again, taking a wide line, trying to apex it well, which he does there, in all fairness to him, takes that really well. Trying to keep the pedal on the metal. Let's see what he's going to come in with here. Is he going to improve on what he's done so far? Unless, no. Well, it's a 2:11.5, so I don't think that went quite to plan on that one, unless that was an outlap. But that's the one thing I didn't see. So obviously at the moment we've got most of the guys out. Razy's back in the pits, probably admiring his 2:09.16, which puts him in P1 at this point in time. Suki has not come out yet, and Flayboy, who's been out but not put down a valid lap. So obviously, yeah, so Pong's not put one down either. So we've got three guys who either haven't put down a valid lap or we might have an issue. I don't know. That's happened before in races where you've had an issue and it's not put down a lap, but If anyone knows, then let us know, but as far as we know, I think it's because nobody's come out. I don't know whether Suki's got any issues, or whether she's just setting everything up and getting everything ready for a final assault in the last few minutes. I've seen that done before too. You never know, you never know. She could be sitting there biding her time and thinking, yeah guys, you don't know what you're missing, I'm going to come out and take you all by storm. So, we shall see. But in the meantime, watching Rubito Diaro, who I believe is our Spanish friend. We've got guys from everywhere. We've got guys from Spain, from Portugal, from New Zealand, from the Netherlands, from the USA, and of course England, Ireland, Scotland and Wales. All these wonderful countries, you see. That's the beauty of online racing. You can be anywhere in the world, and for one night only we can all race together. Miracles of modern technology that make this all possible. Hey, and we take it for granted. So anyway, let's see here. We're looking at Van Elk coming around the last corner. It doesn't look it, but now I'll give him commentator's curse and say it doesn't look brilliant, but he'll probably go P1 now I've said that. We'll have a look. No, he's 0.065 down, so he's not finding the pace. He's not this would make it interesting. I mean, as it is, I think the things that don't benefit Razy is the fact that we've only got 7 cars on the grid to start the race. I don't know whether we might have anyone turning up late after qualifying. So of course, if anyone turns up late, they cannot take part in qualifying. But between the 2-minute gap that we have between qualifying and the race starting, yes, they can join us then at the back of the grid. However, we're looking like the Magnificent 7 this evening. Or we may have the 7 brides for 7 brothers. You can make your choice which ones they are. But or could they be the 7 deadly sins? But let's have a look. We're having a look at Pong now. We're just on board with Pong in the M6 GT3, which again is one of the newer cars to GT3. It wasn't in Project Cars 1. I had a little go with it earlier on today, and let's just say I failed miserably. It wasn't default setting though. That's my out. That's my get out. That's my caveat. But yeah, I was pants driving it. So if I do get to drive that car again, trust me, I'd hope it's better. Anyway, let's see. We don't know. This might have been an outlap. He's done a. No, it's 2:13.1. So again here we've still got Suki and Flayboy who haven't put down a lap. Both in the pits at a minute. Obviously Van Elk, our championship leader, is still in the pits. Probably scratching his head at the moment, wondering how he can get close to Razy's 209.16, because he's certainly thrown down the gauntlet. But 15 minutes remaining is a hell of a lot of time in a qualifying session. One lap can make all the difference. And Pong has decided to go back in the stands. So here's Razy. He's going to practice his starts. This is what he's going to do, I think. He's hoping he's not going to start from that position though, because that's about 15th. Which, considering the 7, there's very little chance of him starting in 15th. So I think Razy's just going to do a little tester on his starts. Go on, be cocky and pretend it's P1. You know you want to. So there he goes. He's going to sit a little bit back from the line. He'll just sit a tiny bit back of the line, just sit and wait, and then probably stick himself into neutral, fire that throttle, burn a bit of rubber, and there she blows, so they say. Which looks a pretty good start. I've had a little go in this Renault, and it is quite a decent car. A lot better than I thought it was, and if I can't remember whether it's got 7 gears or 8 gears, but I know it's got more gears than most. I think it's got 7. But that can give you sometimes a little bit of an advantage if you get your gear ratios right, which is one thing that I'm hoping as Project Cars evolves and develops a little more. The gear ratios is something that we can obviously have a little bit more chance to play with as the game evolves. It can make a difference. It can make a big difference if you get those just right, just on the sweet spot of each gear. So obviously Razy's just done a tester from a dead standing start from pole position. But like I say, on this track, because of the way that you set off, obviously if you're in pole position, you're on the left hand side, you're narrow. Even though P2 is slightly behind P1, it's got the better natural line leading into the first tight corner, whereas P1 is tight, you've got to come across. So if you're in P1 at the start of this race, you really want to make sure you get off to a good start and get yourself ahead of P2 so that you can move across and take a wide stance into what is a pretty tight apex of a turn 1. The designers of this track knew exactly what they were doing by putting the first turn in that's somewhere on a par with 290 degrees or something like that. There's over 3/4 of a circle. I think they must have looked at that and thought, yeah, we're going to get some pile-ups on this corner. Hopefully we won't get those tonight, because our drivers are careful and are courteous to one another, even with the championship at stake. So we'll probably have a 7-car pile-up on corner 1. But let's see here. So give you a bit of an update on the qualifying so far. Again, Flayboy and Suki haven't got a time down yet. As far as I'm aware, Suki hasn't come out the pit, so I'm hoping that's not a problem. I would hope that she's, like I say, just biding her time, getting everything ready, set. If she hasn't had time to do settings, she might put them together and come out and do a flyer. As Razy comes back to P1 again to do a start, getting a couple of those practices in. It's a big night for him tonight. The pressure's on him. As Van Elk's just come out, yeah, he's going to warm himself up. At the moment, Razy's got everything down. With a 2.3 second lead. So we've got, of the times we've got down there, we've got Joe Black with 2:22, which I'm sure he'll improve on as he comes out. Because he's just in the pits at the moment. He's probably changing a few settings there if the car's not handling the way he likes, because from what I remember, the back end was a bit flappy. I'm sure that's a technical term, but I'm going to call it flappy. Yeah, it was definitely either lacking a bit of downforce there, or there's certainly something not quite right with that. Ponkanong's put down a 2:13.1, which again isn't too shabby. It's not a bad time, but he's still nearly 4 seconds shy of pole sitter Razy. Again, Van Elk, championship leader, is in 3rd place, 2.3 seconds behind Razy. Again, might not seem a lot, 2.3 seconds, but over a 24-lap race, that's the best part of, what, 48, even my maths is going daft now. We're into like the 54, 55 second mark. So again, that would be one heck of a lead. But the fact is, how many people can Razy keep between him and Van Elk if he can go around and put those sort of times down lap after lap? As at the moment, Rubito Diero's in there with a 2:10.7, which is 1.6 behind Razy's hot lap. Still a fair gap, but obviously if this position was to equate into the race, you'd have Razy having 30 points, you'd have Van Elk having 21 points if we could do a 1st and 3rd. The best scenario for Razy is he wins the race, irrespective of, because there's a bigger points difference between him and Van Elk if he can do that. I think if Razy doesn't win the race, then it's, barring disasters, it's probably curtains for the title. So this is really the race where everything matters. This is the race that he's really got to put the gauntlet down. If he can do that this race, and everything seems to say at the moment he is, then if he can do that and bring that gap down, then if he could get a 1st and Van Elk either gets 2nd or 3rd, then the gap then becomes 6 or 3 points going into the final race. If he can get it down to the 3, then that becomes a different story altogether. That's all to play for. Then it becomes an 8-lap shootout basically. So again, we're looking at what's, whys, wherefores, ifs, buts and maybes, because I can't predict the future. If I could, trust me, I'd be wealthy and I'd live in Saint-Tropez. However, as it is, I'm not. So at the moment, Van Elk's not really managing to do it. He's having some troubles here, because that lap was actually slower than the one he'd put down previously. Oh no, he has gone a bit faster. He's 2:10.8. So he's 1.7 behind, whereas he was 2.3 before. But he's just spun out. He's just spun out, which is not a good sign, because you want to be consistent. You need to be consistent in doing this, and if he's not got that consistency, then he's going to have a problem. So at the moment we're into 8 minutes left. Pong's the only one out there. I think Raisy's probably having a sit back, in all fairness, thinking, how can I improve this car? So I believe somebody's making their way out the pits. Not sure who we got. We'll certainly be having a look in a minute, because I can see that little white dot heading its way. We've got a couple coming out. I think C.O.T.A's the first one. I think he was the first one coming out, and Van Elk has come out. Van Elk's come out behind him, I think. So I think Raisy's probably going to sit. Like, he might come back out, but I think at the moment everybody else is quite some distance behind him. So I think he might sit. He might stay sitting, watch him come out now I've said that. But at the moment we've only got 3 guys out on track. Now whether C.O.T.A and Flayboy are actually going to bother putting down qualifying times, or are they just going to run from 6 and 7 and take that for granted, I don't know. But obviously we've seen Flayboy come out, so I'm assuming there's no issues there, because he's actually been out on track. However, C.O.T.A hasn't, so I don't know whether there's maybe been some issues there, or whether she's been a bit tight for timing for tonight, and she's obviously made sure that she gets into the race by obviously getting in, even though she maybe hasn't got the time to be able to put a qualifier down. These things happen. People have jobs, people do work, but they all try and get back and try and commit themselves to the racing, which has got to be commendable. So anyway, let's go back. We're currently watching C.O.T.A, seeing whether or not he can improve on his P2 of 210.7. At the moment he's just coming round the tight corner there, where he's doubling back on himself into the very long right-hander. So he's into the last sector now, just around this last right-hander. Probably might have to ease off a bit if you're running a bit too far over. Don't want to oversteer on it. Instead he understeered. Typical. Don't you just know when these things are going to happen? Marvellous. So he's going to stay out, although, like I say, he'd probably lose a little bit of time in the fact that he's not got the pace down the back straight either. But somebody else is following him out there, which I gather is probably Van Elk, finishing off his out lap as he comes down in his rainbow Lambo, for want of better words. I mean, not being rude, but if somebody did the paint job like that on my car, I'd want it redone. But it's each to their own. Let's have a look here. So he's got 5 minutes just over. So in truth he's got 3 laps max. I don't know how much fuel he's carrying, but he's got 3 laps max to try and do something, assuming that he does 3 relatively clean laps, because he'll get the first 2 in, and then he'll probably have about a minute left, or maybe 30 seconds left of the period in which he can get one last lap in if he needs to. But I don't think Raisy's going to come back out, in all fairness. I don't think he needs to. Only if he sees somebody put something down does he probably need to come out. Again, I don't think we're going to see C.O.T.A or Flayboy. I don't think either of those guys are going to come out. I think once we get under the 2-minute 20 mark, if they don't come out, then it's not worth it, because they'll probably only get a chance to do an out lap, won't get round that out lap in time to be able to put in a proper lap. So I would imagine that we can guarantee that they're going to start 6 and 7. I think Joe Black has accepted his lot that he's going to finish 5th and start from 5th place on the grid, which is fair enough. It's none too shabby nonetheless. And then it's a case of the front 4 certainly going off the times. The front 3 time-wise are a bit closer. Pong's about 2 to 3 seconds, well, about 2.3, 2.4 seconds behind Van Elk. Obviously, as C.O.T.A decides to take a little bit of either oversteer or and a nice little bump into the railings for good measure. That's a bit like my wife's reversing, but never mind. So anyways, we're watching Pong down to 3 minutes 20. So just Van Elk and Pong out there. It's not the worst thing in the world if Van Elk starts third on the grid. He's going to be sat behind Razy on the grid, so he can tail him. And in truth, that's probably all he needs to do to a large extent, if he can keep pace with the searing pace that Mr. Razy Rio put down over the course of this qualifying session. So 3 guys out there, Roberto Diero, Van Elk and Pong Kanong, who we're currently watching in his M6. So at the moment he's just roughly about 2/3 away around the track. He's just into what I would call the tight section of the track. If it's got an actual proper name, then forgive me for not knowing exactly what it is. But after the long straight, it's basically you've just had a long straight, you've just had a lazy stretch, now you've got to work. And obviously this brings your cornering into play. This is where championships are won and lost. You don't do your cornering right, don't apex the corners right, that puts you off for the next corner, and so on and so on. It's not just an odd point whatever of a second you lose. You probably lose a bit on each corner. It's maybe costing you 2 seconds in a lap, which is probably the difference between Razy and the rest at the minute, because in all fairness, what I saw of his lap, he was apexing most of the corners. Again, Pong there probably came into that one too slow, in truth. But 1:47 left, so everyone's going to be doing their last laps, if indeed they are. So basically for Pong, it's 4th or bust. Again, as we're watching Van Elk coming round, he's just coming around the long right-hand semicircle part. No, he's slowed right down, hasn't he? Has he jumped back in the pits? He has. He's given up the ghost on that one, so it can't have been much good. He would have still had enough time. I'm assuming that he didn't have enough fuel to do another lap, which is the most likely. Otherwise, I would have thought he would have gone out and done another lap on that. So at the moment, we're looking with 1 minute and 8 seconds left. We're currently watching Roberto Diero, who looks as if he's trying to push it a bit. He's using up all the track on here. He's just coming around into the start-finish straight. Looked a little bit as if he lost a bit of pace coming round into that. So again, commentators cursed. Let's have a look. No, didn't. But again, he's still got time for another lap if he's got enough fuel on there, which I'm assuming he has got enough fuel on board. Where's Pong? Is Pong going to get back? He's got 30 seconds. Don't think he's going to get there to the start-finish line. In fact, no. I think he'll do incredibly well to get anywhere near the start-finish line in the next 30 seconds to get another lap in. Unless he's got Thrust 2's rocket engine in the back of his car, which I'm sure he hasn't got. For any of you that don't know what I mean with Thrust 2, it's the car that holds the world land speed record. Anyway, so here as we go, so barring something amazing from Roberto Diero, we're looking at Razy, who's 12 points behind and who's been chipping away at Van Elk's championship lead. Again, throwing down the gauntlet in good style. 2 minutes 9.16. I thought somebody would do it. I thought it was certainly possible, and he didn't just do it, he smashed through it. He's nearly into the 2.8 category. So that's certainly no mean feat. The only guy that's under double figures anyway, so everyone else is over the 10. So again, can Roberto Diero, can he improve his second position? Or, even if he can't improve his second position, he's up at the moment 0.41 of a second. So, well, he was trying to push it there, it was obvious. He was 0.41 of a second up. He was on a no-lose situation, really. He was second place no matter what. He was 0.4 in front at that point in time, which still wouldn't have made him eat up the 1.6 that Razy had over him. So yeah, there's definitely that. Corey says, yeah, well, you listen, yeah, them tyres weren't, no, yeah, you're right there, mate, absolutely definite. So we're looking at championship second place But pole position for this race, this is all Razy can do. He can't do any more than that. The best he can do tonight is go out there, pole position, win the race. Anything else, they can look after themselves. He's got to look after himself. He's got to do his job. His job, go out there, take the checkered flag. So there's C.O.T.A. Again, we're just coming up to the last 5 seconds, and Van Elk there. And with Poncarong. So that's the end of our qualifying session. Again, confirmation, Razy Real blistering around the track in 2:09.16. A rather thumping 1.638 seconds ahead of anyone else. So yeah, so in all fairness, if you look at the split times there, his sector 2 of 47.3 is where he's making up all that time. His sector 3 is better than everyone else's, but again he was 0.6 ahead of C.O.T.A. on that one. But and again, he wins a second. Sector 1, not much in it for everybody in truth. But yeah, I agree there to a certain extent. Corey's saying there, he's saying pole can be difficult, which is what I was saying earlier. You may not have been on when I was saying that, but obviously at this track I think P2 is the best starting position, because you've got track position. P1, you've got to get off to a good start to be able to move yourself across, to get out wide so that you can take the apex of that corner and try and minimise what that corner can give you. Try and get some decent traction through that. So anyway, here we go. The penultimate race of the GT3 season. Everything to play for. Top of the championship, Van Elk. 3rd place, sitting in behind Razy Real. So they're both on that side of the grid. So no real advantage from any of them, in truth. It's whether C.O.T.A. will play ball into turn 1, or whether he gets through into Phil Hill, like you say. If he can do that, then all well and good. But we're there sitting watching Razy. He was practicing his starts, so hopefully for him he'll get into a good start. C.O.T.A. there. Again, you can see the line that they've got from these positions. The line from P2 on the grid is just a much better line. But I think that's why Razy wanted to get off to a good start. Again, looking at Van Elk, he can hope he can slip behind Razy. Razy will hope he can slip in with C.O.T.A. in there as a bit of a buffer between the two of them. So anyway, we're getting ready for the lights. This is where the bottle's going. The lights are going, and away we go. Looking at that, Razy gets off to a decent start, makes up a bit of room. I think Van Elk managed to get off to a decent start. He stayed over to the left-hand side. They've both taken that corner pretty tight. What's Van Elk done? He's virtually come to a stop there. Razy's managed to get himself away. Van Elk did just lose out a little bit to C.O.T.A. there, but again he took a swipe past him there. They've both looked as if they were going to go a bit wide there, but they've taken the full thing. But obviously Razy's managed to get the start he wanted. Looking at Joe Black there now, into 4th position, with Flayboy just having a look at him. He was trying to have a little look to see if he could try and take him on the next. I think in truth he might try it on after the apex of the next bend, or he might try it on the next straight if he gets through there. But yeah, in all fairness to Razy, he's already built up a 2-second lead. Joe Black, to be fair to him, good sport, really good sportsmanship there. I think he knew that Flayboy had the run on him, and he didn't really try and defend that. He let him through, in truth, because I think he knew he had the pace on him. So that's fair enough. Again, looking at Razy pushing out to 3.8 seconds, 3.6, depending where we are on the track. But the only person that's going to beat Razy in this race is himself, in truth. I think it's going to be consistency for him. It's keeping the bottle going, because there's a lot riding on it for him. At the end of the day, he's the guy who's trying to make up this gap. He wants to be as consistent as he can for the 24 laps of this race. And if he can keep putting down lap times around the 2:10 mark, then I think he'll be gone into the wild blue yonder. I think the other guys will be kissing him goodbye and having a little battle amongst themselves. So anyway, we're coming in toward the end of the very first lap. Thankfully there was no carnage on the first corner. I'm sure some of you watching might have wanted to see that, but from a racing perspective, no, I don't want to see that. So as we come in, Razy has a healthy lead at the end of the first lap with just over 4 seconds, just now under 4 as they're going into the first corner again. Roberto Diaro has got just under a second lead over, now into a second and a half over Van Alp, with Flayboy, Van Alp's partner in crime, just behind him in 4th. Joe Black then further 3.5 to 4 seconds back in 5th. Suki, who did come out, so she's come out unfortunately a bit dry in the fact that she's not been able to get any practice in on the practice round or the qualifying round, so in all fairness to her, she's probably not had a chance to set the car up exactly how she wanted. But again, she's into 5th, she's overtaken Joe there, and Pong obviously coming up behind Joe as somebody goes a bit wide. I think that was Joe who went a bit wide there, isn't it? So we're looking at 5, 6, 7 here, with Suki in the Ferrari there, taking that a bit wide, had to probably put on the brakes a bit more than she wanted, and basically they're like a little trio there, aren't they, the three of them, all huddling up together. Joe was just trying to get a look in here on Suki, because the Merc's got pretty good straight line speed in all fairness, probably better straight line speed than the Ferrari, but he's getting pretty close there, but no, not quite yet. Again, in all fairness, I think he did the right thing, because I think if he hadn't slowed down the way he did, then there may have been a bit of a touch there as he goes rather wide on that one, and then obviously that lets Pong through and gives Suki a bit of a buffer there for him. So again, that's into 5, 6 and 7. Meanwhile, our championship second place and race leader Razy Real is making it very real. He is 6 seconds up, and that gap is only increasing as we see the two teammates there. Now I want to know who painted their car first and who copied. There they are together. It's like seeing a couple of twins at school, isn't it? They've both got the same haircut, the same clothes on and everything. You can't tell them apart. The only way you can tell them apart, they've got different numbers. Anyway, so Van Alp's last lap that he put in, 2:14.3. To put this into perspective, Razy's last lap, 2:10.8. And I'm assuming that in terms of how much fuel they're carrying, whether they're carrying enough for a full race or whether they're banking on certain pit stops, we'd certainly be able to see that. So as you can see, as the two teammates coming in, the interesting thing is, will it be team orders? Probably not, because I think Flayboy was having a look. He was certainly having a look there he was having a look at Van Alp there. Now, I mean, this could make it tasty. He's going to have a look again, I reckon. He's certainly going to have a look there. So I think team orders are out the window. I think Van Alp's let him go. I didn't defend that at all. He's let him go. Oh, hang on, a bit of paint swapping there. I mean, yeah, exactly. Like Corey said, waiting for the team collision. Bang on there, mate. Bang on. I don't think there's any team orders here, or if there are, there's a few expletives going on in the Van Alp car right now. I mean, I don't know how you can swear in Dutch, whether they use English words or whether they got their own. I'm sure he'll let me know later on. But it looks at the moment like Flayboy's got more of the pace right now. So again, whether that's a strategy, whether Van Alp's carrying more fuel, is giving him a flash. So whether he's decided to overtake him to show that A, he could, and then give him the place back, not sure if I'm honest. But in the meantime, Mr. Razy Real, our New Zealander, is obviously bright-eyed and bushy-tailed because it's early morning for him in good old New Zealand there, and I hope it's a nice sunny day, because in December it's probably baking, which is a little bit weird from our perspective living here, because we're used to snow. Here, by the way, is the UK, just in case you haven't guessed from my accent. But in the meantime, like I say, he's got up bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. He probably had a relaxing Radox bath last night, so he's well up for it. And he's 9.3 seconds in, and we're only into lap 4. So for Razy, it's an object lesson in concentration. There's nobody to race against. You've only got the clock and the lap timer. All he'll be doing is just going around, making sure everything's fine and dandy, nothing too silly. Probably lay off the gas a little bit. Don't have to push it too far, unless anyone starts getting closer to him towards the end of the race. If he has to do that, then maybe he's got enough of a buffer, whereas they can have a look. Corey's asking, are they pitting? In race 1, it's not mandatory. So race 1 isn't a mandatory pit stop. So it's down to their own strategy. To be quite honest with you, you can do a straight off pit stop without fuel or tyres in 5.3 seconds. I think if you're changing tyres or anything like that, you're looking a minimum of about 16.6 seconds. So again, it depends on what your strategy is. In a 24 lap race, if you want to fill up with fuel, obviously you're carrying the extra weight, but does that extra weight slow you down enough to make it worthwhile rather than doing a pit stop? I would hazard a guess, if it was me, I'd probably go out with a full tank of fuel with 24 laps worth of fuel, because to me a pit stop just takes way too long. If it's a 50 lap race, I might consider it, but a 24 lap race, I don't think you can make that time up. We've lost somebody. I think we've lost Suki. I think we've just lost Suki. She may have had problems. Life of these tyres. Good question, in the fact of the life of these tyres. I mean, I'm assuming that. Now I know in the past Razy's had combinations where he's maybe used hard on the back, hard on the rear, and soft on the front. Well, it might be the wrong way around, but I know he's done those sort of combinations before. So they haven't always had all 4 tyres the same in terms of pressures as well. But generally speaking, if you're using slicks, difficult with this track because you've got an awful lot of left-hand corners. But most of the tighter corners are left-handers. In fact, pretty much all of the tighter ones are left-handers. So that front left is probably going to take a bit of hammer as you're going around this track. Mind you, again, the front right's going to take hammer too. So the left-handers, the front right's going to take the hammer. The front left is going to take hammer going off the right-handers. The front's definitely going to burn much more than the rears. But I would have thought, if you're running 24 laps on one set of tyres, by the time you get to the end, I would have thought the last 4 laps are a struggle. I would have thought 20 laps, they're probably looking halfway degraded around about 8 to 10 laps. And I would have thought when you're getting down into 20 laps, I would have thought that the fronts are probably, to all intents and purposes, gone. However, sometimes, again, if you played this game a bit, you'll know that sometimes the graphic might show that the tyre's gone, but sometimes the feel, what you can actually feel, is totally different to that. And that's what I found out sometimes. It can look as if the tyre's totally gone and you should be slipping all over the place, but the reality is that your lap times are maybe only a second or so down. The grip still feels okay. You might have to brake a little bit sooner, take off the pace a little bit more, but in general it's not showing them as hammered. Hope that's a reasonable explanation for you. But I've not driven this particular track in a GT3, but I'd certainly hazard a guess to say at 24 laps on the same set of tyres, I think they're ready for the bin. But as we're into lap 6, so we're just finishing obviously lap 5 and everyone's going into lap 6, which is obviously the quarter mark of this 24 lap race. Then Razy has now pushed out his lead to just over 12 seconds. So again, equates a bit much like to qualifying here to a certain extent. He's roughly 2 seconds a lap better than anybody else. So even in both races, this is putting a bit of pressure on Van Elk, because if these positions stay as they are, then that 9-point lead that Van Elk had prior to the start of this, prior to the start of this race, the 12-point lead he had would be 3. But I'm going to hazard a guess. That if we come to the end of the race, will Rubito be a good teammate and give Van Elk second place? Because at the moment, Racey's gone. He's into the sunset, barring a disaster. Rubito Diero is second place, obviously teammate of championship leader Van Elk, who's in third. So I've just been led to believe that poor old Suki, in all fairness to her, managed to have some internet issues and managed to get herself disconnected, unfortunately. The question is, have we all got fibre optic broadband? Probably not. But anyway, these are things that we can't do anything about, but thankfully for her it happened earlier on in the race and not in lap 23. That would be really annoying. So here we go. I think I said earlier on that with Rubito is not Van Elk's teammate. Van Elk's teammate is Flayboy, who's behind him. So Rubito's running away for second place. He's got a roughly just under a 3-second lead on Van Elk. He's lapping a lot faster. So obviously, looking at the lap times, if you see what the last lap times were, then as these guys are going through now, Razy lapped at 2:11.7. Obviously, he's took his foot off the gas a little bit. Rubito's gone around in 2:15.5. Van Elk's a bit faster, 2:14.2. Teammate Flayboy 2:14.3. Pong's gone round in 2:16.4. And Joe's gone round in 2:25.6. Probably not up on the pace with these guys, but hey, in all fairness, he's just coming down. See what his last lap is now. A little bit faster. Oh, that's better. That's a lot better. That's much better, Joe. Much better, mate. 2:16.7. So again, you know, he's improving as the race goes on, which I think is something that you will notice quite a lot. That's something that I tend to do as well. No matter how much practice you get, when you're in the race itself, you might start off a bit ropey, but obviously you improve as the race goes on, as you get used to where your braking points are, where your apexes are, and you get used to those things. Unfortunately, some of the things you can't get used to are overzealousness and getting a bit too heavy with that pedal on the metal. So, which I think sometimes Joe might be guilty of, but I think we can all say that, can't we? Anyway, in the meantime, over a quarter of the way through, lap 7 of 24, we are looking at race leader, Mr. Razy Real from New Zealand, who is 16.3 seconds up. Basically, that lead's just increasing now, and he's just basically just cruising out there. He's not pushing it too far, he's just happily cruising around. If you notice, he's trying to use up maximum track width each time. Now I've said that, he'll probably take the next corner really narrow. No, he won't. He's trying to come out as wide as possible to take in an apex there, try and maintain as much speed coming through that corner. Apexes that perfectly. Again, running out wide to try and apex coming into here. It's an object lesson in apexing corners, guys. If you want to watch it at the moment, this is it. So I'll get my commentator's curse out, ready for that part. No, took it well, good. I haven't given the guy the kiss of death. He's not going to come after me. That's good. But again, that's the difference. If you're watching our race leader, and I've just got a message there from Suki. Not happy she got disconnected. Neither would I be, love. I've got to be fair. And I wouldn't be happy if that happened to me. Get onto your internet provider and give them a kick in. Of course, in a nice way. We don't condone violence in this programme. But metaphorically speaking, give them a piece of your mind, and hopefully they will give you a better internet connection. Tell them you're important. I'm sure they'll do that. But let's have a look as we get back here to Razy. She's laughing at me now. That's okay, that's okay. There's nothing more annoying than being in a race and your internet connection going down on you, trust me. I could have said something else then, but I'm not going to. I'm going to keep it clean. Anyway, meanwhile, still watching the masterclass from our race leader, Mr. Razy Real, who again He is just increasing that lead, just out to just over 17, 18 seconds now. It's becoming a procession, this race. Like I say, if he wanted to throw down the gauntlet, I can't think that beyond his wildest dreams he wouldn't be imagining a better scenario than this. This is everything that he could have wanted for as he's coming back round the start-finish straight now. Let's have a look and see, let's look at what sort of time he's going to put down here. Again, probably not pushing the boat out madly. There you go, he's 1.06 seconds down on his previous lap. He's running at 2:11.9, taking it easy. I'm just getting a message in on there from Corey saying he doesn't recognise the emblem on the leader's car. It's a Renault. It's an RS. It's a Renault RS 01. If you're wondering what it was, they're pretty good cars to drive. To be fair, I waltzed around in a nice flouncy purple one, and it did look very nice. I just didn't drive it very well, but it looked good. But yeah, it's a Renault RS 01. In previous project cars, for some reason, it wasn't added into GT3, although it's always been a GT3 car since its inception, I believe. Somebody will correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was a GT3 car and it was marketed as a GT3 car. But obviously this year it is back in the fold. Mr. Razy Real thought, I'm having a bit of that, and it's working for him. He may have took a little while to get used to it, because like I say, when the championship started, Van Elk certainly had by far and away the better start in comparison if you're looking at the story over the season. Razy had a reasonably inauspicious start. He was, I think in the first race, I think he was third. Oh no, he wasn't actually, I tell a lie, I think he was about 8th or 9th. But in the second race I think he was about 3rd or 4th, so there was an improvement pretty much straight away. And I believe Van Elk missed one of the races. I think he missed round 6. So obviously that helped Razy to catch up on him. I'm sure he made up a few extra points there. But in truth, since then, Razy had he won both races into round 7. Sorry, into round 5 before round 6. So Razy was got a maximum 45 points into that. So obviously started chipping away then at Van Elk's lead, which he's still doing, as his lead is now over 21 seconds into lap 10. Again, slightly slower lap again, 2:12, but like I said before, no need to push it. There's no point making a mistake. He just doesn't need to do that. Basically what he wants to do, if he takes it easy over these 24 laps, he can basically just whittle that lead down. If we finish as we are right now, as 1st and 3rd, then that's a 3-point gap. That becomes an 8-lap shootout in race 2 with a 3-point gap, with the winner getting 15, second place getting 12. So again, 3rd place gets 10, 4th 9, 5th 8, and so on and so on. But basically, if you're Razy Real, you want to go out and win that race, because then the gauntlet's thrown down. So if we get it within 3 points, then if we were just to go into that scenario, if Razy was to take wins in both these races and Van Elk was to take 3rd in this and 2nd in the next, then obviously points wise we'd be level pegging. So the rules of GAVRA Racing, if we finish in a tie, then obviously we're going to go into countback then. So basically it's going to be race performance, number of race wins. So effectively if we go into the number of race wins, then effectively what we have there is we have Razy obviously had his double in round 5 at Sugo. Van Elk, as we stand, has only had 1 win. So that shows how consistent he's been throughout the championship. He's only had the 1 win, which was last week in race 2 at Long Beach. So basically, if we go on a dead heat and we go on countback as to race wins, Razy would have 2 wins tonight, 2 wins at Sugo. He'd win the countback 4-1. The championship would be his. And what a way to win it. if he could do that. It's still ifs, buts and maybes, but it's all there for him. So as we're looking at obviously Van Elk and his teammate, as we just see, I think that was Joe who'd just come off there, wasn't it? I think they were lapping Joe. Were they lapping Joe there? I'm not sure. I'm talking to myself now. At least I get an intelligent conversation, eh? Terrible. Some people would probably argue differently, notably my wife. Anyway, meanwhile, as we're looking in there, we're looking at C.O.T.A, who's gaining. I think, no, yeah, he was the one I think who did slide. Yeah, he's in now in 5th. He must have come off because obviously Van Elk is now into 2nd place, which is awful for Razy because that's a 3-point difference again. That brings it down to, means the lead would then only be 6 points rather than 3, which would make it a lot tougher for Razy to try and win. That 1 place, it's a massive difference. But again, we're not even halfway quite yet, as we're in lap 11 of 24. So again, we got the 2 teammates here. We got Flayboy, Flayboy and Van Elk, and their team orders are terrible. What are these guys playing at? You've got your teammates going for the championship. Get a grip. Dear me. So Flayboy's there is, yeah, like Corey said, been waiting for that. Yeah, they were close last time out. They swapped a bit of paint last time. I think they swapped a bit more than paint this time. And for teammates, come on guys, get a grip, lads. I mean, you know, at the end of the day, you want the fastest guy to win, you want the best guy to win, but don't take your teammate out with friends like that. Who needs enemies? Flipping heck. Thankfully my teammate's not like that. Better not be anyway. So let's have a look. So meanwhile, as good old Razy's there, I mean, good old Razy's out in his own race, bless him. I mean, that's all good for him. 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th are look like they're about ready to have a party at some point in this race, because it's all congregating. Now whether that's Flayboy slowing down and Pong and C.O.T.A, well, C.O.T.A we know is pretty quick anyway, having qualified in 2nd place. And in all fairness to him, he's 8th in the championship before start of play tonight on 91 points. 3 points behind Joe Black, who's actually on 94. Obviously we've got a couple of guys who weren't able to make tonight, unfortunately. But hey, it's Christmas. It's a time for giving. And Razy's hoping that Van Elk will give him the title. But somehow, I'm sure Van Elk would rather be Scrooge and say, humbug, you're not getting it. It's not happening. You've got to fight for this. So in all fairness to Mr. Razy, he said, right, fine, I'm throwing down the gauntlet. I've got a 35-second lead, 12 laps in, at the halfway stage. 34.5 seconds at the halfway stage. Barring a disaster, it's his race to lose. Hope I've not cursed you there, mate, but at the moment, this is a Razy real masterclass of GT3 driving. I'm sure he won't mind me saying that. He'll just have to build an extension in his house for his new size head. If he gets too big-headed over me telling him, but I'm sure he won't, because he's quite a level-headed, grounded chap. So anyway, he's well away. 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th, obviously 2 sets of teammates there as Pong and C.O.T.A decide to see if they can swap a bit of paint. Yeah, you're right there. Yeah, I can smell shenanigans there too as well. I think there's a bit of skullduggery going on. That's Corey there who's just saying, yeah, it needs to be inspected. There's something going on there. I think somebody's put a banana in his tailpipe or something. There's definitely some espionage going on here, a bit of sabotage. To make it all interesting. I blame the Russians anyway, everybody else does. Why can't we? And by the way, if anyone's Russian, I didn't really mean it, honestly. It just sounded good. Anyway, so, into lap 13. Mr. Razy Real happily proceeding in a processional state towards a race win, unless he runs out of petrol 5 yards from the line, which I have seen somebody do. Well, they were about 300 yards from the line when they ran out of petrol, but I have seen somebody do that on the last lap. But we'll probably take a look later on and see what sort of fuel he's carrying in there, because we can have a look at his speedo a bit later, and we can get some idea of whether the guys are planning any pit stops. I don't think anybody will. I can't see anyone will. Yeah, so we'll have a look at that in a moment. What we'll try and do is pan through, see what everyone's carrying fuel wise, just to see if that gives us some idea. So as we're looking at Pong, he's got 42 litres in there. So he's gone out for a full race. Razy's got a bit less in with 37, but again he has done half a lap more, bless him. So he might well, again, Flayboy's roughly running the same as Razy, about 38. So as he takes a little wobble coming out of there. So again, I think it's fair to say that I think everybody's gone out there with the impression of no pit stop, none whatsoever. Van Elk's got carried away. I think Van Elk decided he was going to go on like an excursion or somewhere, because he's got 55 litres still in the tank, which he's got 17 litres more than Razy. I'm not surprised he isn't lapping as fast. You know, it's like me trying to race with my mother sat in the side. That's not happening. You know, because I'd probably knock her out in the ejector seat for a start, because she'd probably waffle at me and tell me I was driving too fast. But hey, you're carrying 17 extra litres, mate. If that's another 17 kilos, that's going to slow you down. Again, just hearing from Suki. Hopefully her internet will be fine, so she'll be able to join us for race 2. Hope you can. Like I say, there's nothing more annoying, because we look forward to this. I race in a different championship, so we all like racing. We all take part in this in some way or other, so we all enjoy racing. Otherwise, hey, what would we be here otherwise? But yeah, I think as we're looking at this again, I think Suki's letting me in on something there. She was saying she thought that a full tank on here was roughly around about 18 laps. Well, if I'm looking at, again, I'm not doubting you, because you can probably look at this when I can't. But looking at this, if I'm looking at most of the guys, the likes of Razy with 38 litres still in the car, it'd be interesting actually to look and see if we can follow Razy for a lap, or follow one of the guys for a lap, and see what they actually use, how much fuel they use in one lap. So we'll probably try and have a look at that if we can, as we see Razy coming around. So as we watch our leader now, what we're going to do is we'll have a look. He's 34.6 litres in here. I mean, again, as Suki's saying now, I mean, if it says that in your setup, you expect it to be true, don't you? Otherwise, if it ain't true, it's going to be naughty. So again, Razy going through into the start-finish straight. He's probably going to cross the line with 34 litres. Go on, change, now that I've said it. Go on, go on. Oh, he changed to 33.9. So, okay, we got 34 litres running round. So we'll see what he uses in this lap. He's going down in 0.2 increments. He went down to 33.7, and now it's gone down in 0.1. So it's dropping different at different times. So we'll have a look and we'll see. We'll see what he's actually going to use there. So if we had 34 to start with, he's already down to 33.4 now, and he's what, quarter of the way round. So I would have thought you're probably going to use over 3 per lap. I think he's got enough to finish with. He must have enough to finish with. I reckon we're just about 3 litres a lap, maybe just under. Watch me get proved wrong now, to make myself look a complete muppet. But we'll certainly see. Like I say, now he's just coming up to just under halfway. I think we are here, and he's run 1.3. Yeah, I reckon he's going to be about 2.8, 2.9 litres a lap, which would mean again different. Again, different cars. Yeah, Suki's just saying exactly what I was just thinking. I mean, in this Renault, I think you've got 7 gears, so you're going to have more gear changes. Going to burn a bit more fuel. Again, he might be maxing out the rich fuel. I don't know whether all the other guys are doing that, but that is an option that they might do. They might try and gamble on running around with less fuel and not doing that, but I don't think so. Yeah, having driven the Ferrari, I'm entitled to agree with you on that. The Ferrari doesn't. It's not quite as thirsty. I think the Renault is probably. It might be the thirstiest GT3 car there, by nature of having the number of gears it has and having the number of gear changes it has, and obviously the fuel that would probably use up. Obviously less gear changes, probably less fuel as he comes around, so it's pretty much going to be where I said, isn't it? 2.8, 2.9 litres a lap. Oh, it's just jumped down 2, so that's jumped down 2 to exactly 3 litres. So he's run 3 litres on that lap, which he's done a 2:12.7, so he hasn't absolutely pushed as to 100%. He's probably still running at about 92, 93%, but he's not pushing it the whole way. He's not really maxing the car out. Yeah, I mean, he's catching up to Joe now. He's catching up to Joe, so he'd probably be he should be taking him any moment. Probably not on this in the corner here. I would imagine wants to get into the straight. Joe will just pull over to one side and do the gentlemanly thing. Oh, actually, there's a bit more of a gap than I thought. But Razy will certainly have the straight line speed. Joe will probably get round this corner, and then, because I think Razy will have more straight line speed. Yeah, well done, mate. That's the way to do it. That's one thing that I'm really hot on. You'll get used to that if you hear me commentating often. Manners are a big thing for me in real life, as Van Elk just spun, I think, or Flayboy just spun. I'm not sure what happened there, but I think Flayboy needed that. Yeah. Again, Suki's saying exactly what I said earlier. All Razy's got to do is coast. The race is won. The only person that's going to beat him in this race is himself. As Van Elk tries to have a look at his teammate again. Yeah, Rubito, in all fairness to him, while we've been going through all of that, in fairness, has managed to push himself back past the other 3 and back into 2nd place. Fair play to him, as Flayboy was having a look, putting the lights on to his teammate Van Elk. Again, 3rd place sitting there. This is what Razy needs. This is everything that Razy wants from this race. Because as I said before, sorry if I'm repeating myself for those of you that didn't hear what I said earlier, the biggest gap in points is between like 1st, 2nd, 3rd. After that, we're going into smaller increments of 2 and only 1 point. So if Razy gets to take the win in this race, which barring a hurricane, an act of God or something, as Van Elk just moves over. I'll just stay with this for a minute. I'll break off from where I was. But these 2 teammates, I think, like I said before, with friends like these, who needs enemies, eh? But, the rules are there ain't no rules. The gloves are off. Throw down the gauntlet. What you got, mate? But yeah, it's like my teammate's my race director this evening. He said he's going to race me like that. I'm sure he's joking, really, because I'll knock him off the track. But I'm sure we wouldn't know. We don't advocate that. GAVRA racing, in all seriousness, we try and race as clean and as fair as possible. We try and use our skills. Sometimes you swap paint in racing. It's the way it goes. But as long as it's only a racing incident and not down to clumsiness or lack of racing etiquette, then fair enough. But yeah, as I was saying earlier, when it goes back to manners and etiquette here, then yeah, that's my big thing. At the end of the day, I'm not the fastest. There's lots of people faster than me. Unfortunately for me, that's most of the other people. However, you can still race clean, and you can still race fair, and you can still race hard. As the 2 come alongside again, and again, Flayboy has paid the penalty. Really, I can't give Van Elk any any blame for that. None of it. That's all Flayboys. Again, you can't go through a car. It's a big piece of metal. You can't go through it. I know, if you're going to overtake, slipstream, and then when the time's right, pull out, take the hit, away you go. But you can't go through somebody. I mean, brilliant. Excellent. It's like having Michael Myers as your teammate. It's like he just wants to kill you. So, yeah. And again, there's Suki saying there, yeah, there might well be some bad blood after the race. I mean, I don't know if... I mean, these guys... I mean, I know Van Aert's in Holland or the Netherlands, if we're going to give it the right one there. Yeah, you're right there. 2 into 1 definitely don't go. Well, it can in one way, but not in this way. And I'm not getting into that because that happens on over 18 channels, not in this one. And we're keeping it clean because we're a family show. Allegedly. Of course we are. Nothing bad here. I've got a halo. There's nothing we do wrong in here. Anyway, meanwhile, 3/4 of the way through, our race leader is into lap 18. Again, still putting down times of 2:11.6. He's been consistent right the way through. So he's now 41 seconds ahead. I reckon it'd have been interesting if he raced in a GT4 in this race. It might have been closer. I mean that's being complimentary to him, not being disrespectful to the rest. Because in all fairness, he's I'm sure he wishes he'd raced like this all the way through. Because I think if he had, he might have had a championship won by now, and he might be one to watch for next season. So yeah, I got banana for your tailpipe next season, Mr. Razor Reel, if you're in the same championship as me. Definitely. Or some other skullduggery. I'll need that to catch you. Anyway, so 18 laps in, Razy's got a 42-second lead over Rubito Diaro, who has got a 7 or near 7-second lead over Van Elk in third. Razy's doing everything he can do. He can't do any more than that. From his point of view, he is just hoping amongst hope that Rubito Diaro can keep that gap, can keep that 7-second gap, or even make it bigger on Van Elk, so that the race finishes with Razy first, Van Elk third. Just as we're looking there, Van Elk's dropped into fourth. Pong's just taken it. Pong, is he giving that back? Oh, they're going to go. They're swapping paint again. I don't think he was giving that back. This is now a battle. This is now a battle 3 and 4. What do you mean rubbish, Corey? Explain yourself, lad. But like, so Van Elk's taking that back. These two, if they do have a fight, that's something going to play into Razy's hands. Oh, right, fair enough. Yeah, she did say that. You're right. Now I know what you were getting at. That now makes immense amounts of sense. So, we've got Razy, lap 19, continuing the Razy Reel procession of the Circuit of the Americas, I think we're now going to call this. Which is, you could argue it's a masterclass at the moment of GT3 racing. Either that or the rest of you are rubbish, lads. So I'm not sure which, but I'm sure it's the first one. There's no way in the world I'd call any of you guys rubbish. I know you're not, because you're all in GAVRA Racing. So that means we're all of a certain standard, even me. As GAVRA was nice and just let me in, I think it was one of his weak moments, bless him. But in the meantime, like I say, 19 laps in, 43.5 seconds. Okay, Razy's last lap was a 2:21. That was, by his standards, pedestrian. But he doesn't need to do any more. He can take it easy, he could save fuel, he can do anything he wants. He can probably sit down, have a cup of tea and a couple of bourbon biscuits if he really wants. Maybe even a pint, but I don't advocate drinking and driving, so maybe not. In the meantime, Rubito Diaro 45.3 seconds back, 7 seconds just over, so he's increasing his lead slightly over Van Elk, who at the moment doesn't look as if he can get better than third. Pong obviously is alongside Van Elk, 0.6 of a second away from him. Flayboy, after touching after trying to rear end his teammate. Forgive that term of phrase, I'm sure there's better ones, but that's the ones I'm going to use. But after doing that naughty manoeuvre, paid the penalty really and ended up in 5th. Serves you right. You can't go through a car. So anyway, but I think at the moment that probably the interesting part of this race is 3rd and 4th, which is what we're looking at now. We're looking at Pong in 4th, and Van Elk obviously just ahead of him in 3rd. From obviously from Raisy's point of view, if Pong could happily take Mr. Van Elk, then that would make them level pegging. Because obviously Van Elk in 4th would get 18 points, Raisy would get 30 points, the 12-point lead would be wiped out, would be absolutely level pegging with an 8-lap shootout. Which from a neutral point of view, yeah, we want that, don't we? From a neutral perspective, sorry, I'm not going to, no, I'm the commentator, I'm not going to come down on anyone's side, but it's a monumental effort, I think, from Raisy over the past few races to reel in, obviously, on Van Elk and give what is probably at the time an improbable finale to this season. However, improbable it is not. So, 20 laps in. Again, Raisy can only do what he can do as Pong's taking a look. He's taking a look. But I don't think he... Again, whether Flayboy will come into this as try and be a teammate after trying not to be a teammate, I don't know. I mean, again, like I said before, it's just like Michael Myers in the Halloween film, just all of a sudden turning out to be a good guy and getting a fork to go with his knife and having egg and chips. Anyway, Pong takes out, is he going? He's gone, he's passed, he's through. He takes out Van Elk into 3rd. Takes a bad corner there. Van Elk might get him back, but Pong's got the inside line on this one. I think he'll hold it. Oh, he's going wide. He's run a bit wide. Van Elk's come back on him. Whether he's given that, I don't know. But Pong's certainly got the straight line speed. There's no two ways about that. Pong's got the straight line speed on him. And if he does that and puts Van Elk into 4th, and we end up level pegging at the end of this, then that puts everything. I think if this race ends up 1st and 4th, I think that basically makes Raisy the favourite for me, on the basis that what he's lapped 2 seconds clear of Van Elk in qualifying, and he's certainly lapped 2 or 3 seconds clear of him in a race. Again, like I said, Raisy's going round in 2:19 now. He's dawdling his way round because he can. Still got a 42-second lead with ambling around. This is everything he could have wanted, and I think Van Elk's putting a little bit of daylight between himself and Pong, but I wouldn't rule anything out yet. Pong's got pretty good straight line speed in that GTR BM, so I think that is its proper title, isn't it? M6 GTR, which obviously the last one I drove was the M3 GTR, and that's quite a while ago. But yeah, in all fairness, this is where it is. Did Van Elk catch the boards there? Something happened there, didn't they? I just caught the edge of that. But he's got away again a little bit. I think if Pong needs to catch him, if Pong wants to catch him, I think he's got to try and outbrake him a bit. He's got a bit more, or it looked like he had a bit more straight line speed, but again, that might have just been an illusion on the basis of Van Elk taking a bad bend and not retaining pace coming out the corner. Again, looking at the feeds, getting a feed in from C. Eliza 708, who, for those of you that don't know, did do a bit of commentary with us and lives in the States. I don't know where exactly you live, C. Eliza. If you want to tell us, please do, but I know you're in the States, my mate. So whether this is local to you, and whether you've raced it on a push bike or anything better. I mean, I'd probably be lucky to go around it in a skateboard, but that's another thing. Rollerblades, that'd be interesting, especially up the first hill. I wouldn't get to the top of it. Anyway, 21 laps in to 24. Look after yourself, mate. Anyway, whatever you do. 21 laps in, 3 to go. Raisy's obviously into lap 22. As we stick with Pong and Van Elk, because that's obviously where the action is at the moment, so to speak. And at the moment, obviously Van Elk's got just about a 2-second lead on Pong now. I think he's just pulling away a bit, as Joe Black just pulls onto the grass. Is his car disguised as a cow and it needed to eat? I'm not sure. But he's been sent to the naughty corner, so he's facing the wall. Don't know what you've done there, Joe, my friend. I did miss if you did spin off, but that's looking like a retirement to me, which would be a bit annoying because you're so near the end. You've only got, if you've been lapped, you've probably only got another lap to go, mate. So try not to retire, stay out there. At least you still pick up points, you know, because unlike certain game shows, points don't mean prizes. I know, I'm corny. I can't help it. I can't help it. I can't even remember what the game show was. Anyway, as we're looking at Pong here, trying to gain a little bit back on Van Elk, there might be like a mad rush for the last 2 laps. But I think position 1. Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. Suki's just saying, did he run out of fuel? Is there any way we can look at Joe Black's car just to see his... No, he isn't. That was a good shout, though, in fairness, to see whether he had. He's still got 19 litres left, so unless he's got damage... I mean, if you get chance to let us know, Joe, what's happened there, mate, put it on the feed if you can. And I'm not sure what's happened. I mean, it's maybe not been the best race for you, mate, and I know that can be annoying, but he might have damage that's making that car really difficult to drive. If he's got suspension damage or something like that, if he's come off, as we see Flayboy there, he's probably come off. I mean, again, that might be tyre degradation. He might be struggling a bit with that. Because again, depending on your driving style, depends on how much those tyres really have an effect. But I can see, I think, looking in here, is Joe on the move? Yeah, he is. He's on the move. He's on the phone. You get 3 points and 60 quid in this country for doing that. I don't know what you get in the States. Maybe C.O.T.A can tell us that. What do you get as a citation for that, C.O.T.A? Being on your phone while driving. I think it's an instant ban and 20 years in a penitentiary myself. But so anyway, lap 23 of 24. Watching the masterclass. Yeah, one more lap, 23 of 24. He's 3 seconds down on the last lap. What difference does it make, really? He could probably wander around in first gear. This is a point where you get out your cigar, don't you? The big fat cigar, and the Castella music comes on. For those of you that aren't English, Castella's a make of cigar. Something bad happens, the guy gets a cigar out, he lights it, and everything's just so much better. It's that moment when everything just comes together. So, big fat cigar and a glass of G&T, or whatever poison does for you. But it's well earned. And if he had a bottle of champagne, he can splatter it all over his house. I'm sure his wife will be well pleased. But all the plaudits go to Razy Real for this one. He's into the last lap. He's into lap 24. As we look at Rubito Diero there in second place. Van Elk catching him? Might be catching him there. And Pong has just decided to lose his back end, I think, on the previous corner. So he might have been trying to push to try and catch back up. With Van Elk, which with a lap and a bit to go, yeah, in all fairness, what has he got to lose, really? Flayboy's like 34. So we're back with Mr. Razy Real, who after this, barring running out of fuel or something equally ridiculous, is certainly going to win this race, as it's looked like he's going to do actually since the end of qualifying. So let's have a look here. Yeah, he's got plenty of fuel left. He's gauged that about right with 6. He'll probably run over the finishing line with about 3.5, 3 and a bit. So he's got that right. I think to some extent, I think Van Alk's made a bit of a boo-boo in the fact of how much fuel he was carrying. Because that's obviously, that must have made a bit of difference. I mean, carrying that extra timber makes a difference, trust me, I know, I've put on weight before, and it makes a difference. As Mr. Razy Reel comes around, and he's getting ready to take the big right-hander. 2 more corners to go after this, and then he can probably dawdle over the line in first gear with a few light flashes, maybe a donut, maybe a, you know, something like that. So hopefully, just as that is now happening, as Mr. Razy Reel takes the ultimate corner to come and take the checkered flag in what has been a superb display under pressure. Flash those lights. That's a superb win. Basically, what he did in qualifying, he converted into the race, and to be honest, pretty much obliterated everybody. And in the meantime, Flayboy's gone into the pits. So whether that's a retirement on his part, I'm not so sure. But all the plaudits have to go to Mr. Razy Reel. You can argue that the pressure was on. You can also argue that he knew exactly what he needed to do. Win. There was nothing else on the table. It had to be the win. And the qualifying gauntlet was thrown down with a 1.6 second lead, which ultimately got eaten away, but not by Van Alk. So basically then, that was throwing down the gauntlet to Mr. Van Alk. And who is going to come in now as C.O.T.A takes a well-deserved second place, in all fairness. And Van Alk will then come in into 3rd place. So, as I said right at the beginning, I should be a prophet if I can prophesy these things. So, Mr. Razy Reel gets himself a big 30 points for winning the race. And a big one that's helped him from that perspective is that Van Alk didn't come second, he came 3rd with 21 points. So we're going to go into race 2, which is an 8-lap sprint with no mandatory pit stop in these races. Basically it's just a 10-minute qualifier straight into the race. So again, no practice, no nothing like that, with a 3-point gap. So simple. Razy wins, he wins the championship. He'll finish on the same points as Van Alk, but he will have 4 race wins to Van Alk's 1 on countback. So therefore, the title would belong to Mr. Razy Reel. And what a hell of a comeback that would be if that is achieved. Which I think may well happen on the basis that he murdered the opposition in qualifying and in the race. And if the same thing is replicated into race 2, then it's basically nobody's going to stop you, mate. It's going to be yours. So there's not much of an interlude here between these 2 races. I'm just going to take a quick swig of Pepsi Max because, hey, I want to know I did sugar stuff, and no, I'm not plugging Pepsi Max before anybody starts. It's just that I happen to like it. I've also got a cup of coffee. I don't know what make it is, so I'm not going to plug it. But one thing that did escape my attention was C.O.T.A had a 2-second penalty. Did he? He must have had that pretty much toward the end, but it didn't affect the result. And I know that Suki's managed to get herself back in for this one, so good luck on that. As I have a swig. Yeah. So, we're all getting ready for race 2. This is it. As they said before Michael Jackson's last tour, which didn't happen, but this race is gonna happen. Definitely. I can definitely tell you that it is gonna happen. Unless all of a sudden we have, I don't know, a meteorite shower. which hopefully we're not going to have, because I've got loads of Christmas presents and I want a chance to open the damn things. So can't ruin that one. You can't ruin that one for me. Anyway, as we're getting ready for everybody to start into race 2, take a deep breath, hang on to your hats if you've got one. If you haven't, go out and buy one and then proceed to hang on to it, because this is going to be an 8-lap adrenaline fueled white knuckle ride between Mr. Razy Real, who's got everything to gain and nothing to lose, and Van Elk, who has everything to lose. Van Elk wins it, it's winner take all. Whoever wins this race wins the championship. So, in order to look at this, I know with some of the GT3s last year, I think Red 1528 won one of the GT3 championships last year. I'm not quite sure off the top of my head who won the other one, but I know Red 1528 was the winner of one of the GT3s, which I think was raced on, I think they did them on 2 different nights last year. I think they did a Tuesday night and a Friday night. So I'm sure somebody will correct me if I'm wrong. I've looked at that many facts and figures, I've got them all in my head, but somebody's kicked it and they're all over jumbled, they're all over the show. And my wife would probably tell you that my brain's usually like that anyway. But yeah, I'm pretty sure Red 1528 won one of them, and I think Solo Solita, who was his teammate, came second in that particular championship. In the other one I'm not so sure, but just while we're waiting for this race to start, let's give a big up to the champions that have been crowned so far. So in the GAVRA Academy we had a number of races, so we split up into 2 groups. We had a Group A and Group B, and obviously in Group A I believe Flip was the winner, was the champion of that group, and in Group B, which was the group that I raced in, it was me. No, it wasn't, I'm lying. Sorry, Leng. It was Leng Boy Origins who basically massacred our group. I think he won all but one of the races. If I'm doing you just service there, Leng, then let me know, mate. And I believe that Flip was also nearly as dominant in Group A, so they were 2 worthy champions, so well done to both you guys. Also a big up to Vectro666, who basically cemented his legacy in GAVRA racing with yet another championship. I'm led to believe it's his 3rd, because his first one was right in the beginning when GAVRA racing started off as a karting group. So I believe that Vectro has 3. He's a 3-time world champion. I need to sound like Michael Buffer now, don't I? He's a 3-time champion of the world. And maybe Mr. Razy Real or Mr. Van Elk can also say that in approximately 8 laps time plus 10 minutes worth of qualifying. The interesting thing will be what Van Elk's strategy is for this qualifying. He's got to go out with low fuel, personally. He's got to go out with that. So anyway, a big up with Shane, who's just sending us in saying, what's up, bro? Hey, absolutely everything, mate. Seriously, absolutely everything. But I'm not going to bore you with all the details. In the meantime, like I say, if you are just joining us, the last race of the GT3 season, this is the finale in every shape of that word, if a word can actually have a shape, but certainly in every sense of the word. So just to put you in the picture, it's an 8-lap shootout. 2 guys come win the championship, Van Elk and Razy Real. We start the race, Van Elk holds a 3-point lead over Razy Real. So if Razy Real wins the race and Van Elk comes second, Razy gets 15 points, Van Elk gets 12. That gives us a dead heat. It would then go on count back of number of races won, and Razy Real would then win the championship by virtue of winning 4 races, and Van Elk only won 1, but he's been very, very consistent to Van Elk, in all fairness to the boy. he's been incredibly consistent throughout the season. The fact that he's only won one race and he leads the championship tells you he's basically, the podium is charging him rent. He spends that much time on it. So that puts that into perspective. So it's all to play for. There's everything going on this race. Usually you get to the last race and everything's done and dusted, everything's all tied up. Not this time. Not this time. So basically, we'll be going into that. So obviously, again with Shane, basically, so you've just got this game on Xbox. I should have got it on PS4, mate. Should have got it on PS4. No, seriously, for what I can tell you, it'll take a bit of getting used to. It's not your average console game. It's not GT Sport. It's not Forza. It's basically trying to bridge the gap between the arcade style GT Sport and what I would consider to be proper iRacing, proper sim racing and so forth. It's neither of the two, but it's trying to, I think it's fair to say it's bridging the gap between those two. But it's ultimately a tougher game to get used to, and you will feel the difference in every single car you get in, just as you really would. The physics of the vehicle are different, but once you start to master it, it is ultimately rewarding. He says, having not mastered it one little bit, but it's a game that you can grow with, and it will grow with you. And in all fairness, it was a long time in the making. It probably got released too early, because when it was first released, it had too many bugs in it. In all fairness, it was an insect infestation. There were that many bugs, but in truth, since they've done some of the updates, they've got rid of a lot of them. There's still one or two more that they probably need to get shut of hopefully in the next few weeks and months after Christmas, as Joe Black comes out the pits there. But ultimately, it's a good game. You bought the right game. You'll find it ultimately rewarding. I think it's better than anything else on console. Other people may disagree, but I didn't even buy GT Sport this year. I bought every Gran Turismo in the past. I didn't even buy it this year, because what's the point in buying a game that's just going to sit on a shelf for the next X number of months, because this game is ultimately miles better. Anyway, like I say, glad you could join us, glad you got into the game. Buy yourself a PS4, mate, and come and join our community. Get yourself a PS4, get yourself onto our website, gavraracing.altavista.org, or just go onto Google or any other search engine, he says. Just put in GAVRA Racing, G-A-V-R-A Racing, all one word, lowercase. It'll be the first one that comes up there. Click on it, go onto the website, have a look around, register, get yourself on there, get yourself known. And obviously, if you do get lucky enough to get into a PS4 as well, then hey, you can come and join us into some of our races. I don't think there are any plans to expand into the Xbox world. In fact, I'm pretty sure we're not going to. So if you do get a chance to grab yourself a PS4 from somewhere, then by all means, you are more than welcome. We've got a community also on PS4. That might be where you got to hear of us, I don't know. But basically, I say that, got to get a new job first. Fair enough. I can't fault you for that, mate. Well, my teammate's got a VR too, but I believe the VR for this game is kind of okay, but not everything it could be. Yeah, it's not everything it could be yet. So get the PS4 yet first, and then if you get a PS4 Pro, then all well and good. Grab your 4K TV from out your lounge, stick it in your man cave, and make them buy another one. That's what I say, and put that all on there. But yeah, absolutely, get yourself onto the website, have a look, see what we're all about. We'll be running 2 new academies in the new year. I think we've got about 27 people who've registered for it so far. So more the merrier. So yeah, get yourself registered, have a good look, see what we're all about, and come and join us. You will be welcome. Anyway, as I break off from that, we've got 10 minutes left of what was supposed to be 10 minutes, according to me, according to the information we had, but it started off as being longer than the 10 minutes that yeah. So we had 30 minutes and 15 minutes qualifying, but it said on mine 25 and 10, but hey, what do I know, hey? I'm just a guy that used to be part of Mensa. Does that mean I've got a brain? No, never. He says, being modest. Not. Anyway, enough of my ramblings. See ya. I'm joking. I'm really here. So, 10 minutes left. So, Suki has been able to rejoin us. We'll be pleased to know. So, we're back up to the Magnificent 7. And as we're watching Joe, obviously, probably got a feel for it now. Yeah, so he's not going to put a lap time down because he overran somewhere. So at the moment, the main protagonists are out there. Raisy's out there. Rubito might have something to say in this championship, yeah. He showed me enough in that first race to make it think that he just might be able to put a spanner in the works as we watch Van Elk coming around now. Because obviously if Rubito manages, let's say if Rubito managed to come first, even if Raisy came second and Van Elk came third, Van Elk could win by 1 point. However, if there was a 2-point difference, as we see Van Elk passing over. Oh no, sorry, that was his teammate. Sorry, I was looking. This is his first lap, but he's run really wide there, hasn't he? Didn't take that corner very well, so might not be expecting anything brilliant. Again, we're looking for the only person who's done a lap time under 2:10 was Raisy in qualifying for the last race. So he's set a marker down now, so I'm expecting nothing less than a 2:9, and he was down at the bottom of 2:9, so he might be able to run into a 2:8. I think it's possible for him to do that. If he did, then he's really throwing the gauntlet down. The main thing from the other side of the coin, from Van Elk's side of the coin, is he's really got to up his game. I mean, without being rude to him, I think the last race might have been his C game, never mind his B game. But I think he made a mistake, in my own opinion. I think he made a mistake in the amount of fuel he was carrying around the track. He was carrying at least 17 litres more than Raisy for the whole race. So, assuming a litre's a kilo, which I would imagine it is, or near enough, in terms of the liquid viscosity, so it would weigh a bit, just like water would, then if he's carrying an extra 17 kilos around, then that's bound to make a difference in your lap times. Maybe not the whole 1.5 seconds he was behind, but it certainly wouldn't help. It'd alter your cornering a bit, it'd alter the physics of the car. So I think that was a bit of an own goal on his part there. But I still don't think he'd have beat Raisy, but he may well have come second, which would have made this race a lot less pressure for him. However, at the moment, he needs to win. The pressure's on him now. He needs to win. And the fact that Mr. Raisy Real put down such an impressive first race has heaped the pressure on Van Elk now. I don't know how he takes pressure. We're going to find out, aren't we? Maybe he'll swat it all aside, go out and win the race. Maybe he saved himself for this one, although I doubt it. Without being rude, you go out and do it the first chance you got. You wouldn't wait until the last minute to try and do it. So anyway, we're looking here. I think Van Elk's going to practice a start. I think he's going to practice starts, because I'm assuming that's what he's going to do. Is he going to practice a start? No, I'm not sure what he's going to do there. No, he's just carried on. But unless he's just done that to really to basically not show what lap time he was doing. Yeah. So Raisy's coming round with a proper lap. It's got to be around the 2:10 mark, I would have thought. Oh right, he's done it as well. Is there a bit of kidology going on here, guys? Wait. Oh, of course we are. Of course we are. Forgive me. We have reverse grid for this race. Of course we do. What did we bother with the qualifying for? Of course we do. So, this is going to make it even more interesting. Something that, in my infinite wisdom, I managed to completely forget. So, yeah, we got to... So basically what we should have on this is in terms of it's basically going to be the results from obviously the last race. So if people didn't finish the last race, they don't count. They will finish at the back of the grid, is my assumption here. So as you can see, we will have, I'm sure Joe finished the last race, didn't he? So we'll have Joe, followed by Pong finished fourth, sorry, didn't he? Because he came off. And then so we'll have Razy will be at the back of, not specifically the back of the grid, because I think C.O.T.A will be at the back of the grid by virtue of not being in the last race or not completing. So I think what we're going to have, I think we'll have C.O.T.A at the back of the grid. I think we'll have Flayboy, Joe Black, then Pong, then Van Elk, Ruben. So no, sorry, Van Elk could be 2 positions by Razy. So I think C.O.T.A, who didn't finish the race, would be at the back of the grid. I'm assuming that she's the only one that didn't finish the race. So then we'd have whoever was second, which is Pong. Pong was second in the race, so he'll finish 6th. He'll be 6th on the grid. He'll be 1 in front, so it's a reverse grid. Oh, sorry, C.O.T.A was second. He'll be the next position in front, so it'll be 6th for Joe. 6 for Razy, 5 for C.O.T.A, 4 for Van Elk, 3 for Pong, 2 for Joe, I think. Oh, sorry, 2 for Flayboy, 1 for Joe, and the others at the and C.O.T.A, who didn't complete the race, would probably still start at the back of the grid behind Razy. That's my, because you weren't in the last race, I don't actually know how that works out. If somebody knows, hey, enlighten me. But as far as I'm aware, I would imagine that whoever, if you weren't in the previous race, you start at the back of the grid for this one. I think C.O.T.A was just practicing a start there from a standing start on that one. So effectively, like I say, how long have we got? 2 minutes and 46 seconds. The nerves will be twitching. Change of underwear needed. So yeah, so I think we got, obviously C.O.T.A or Flay haven't actually put down a time, but then again, because it's reverse grid, unless they wanted to do it for practice, it's probably pointless. The thing that I find interesting, I think, again, what we managed to see in the last race, I want to see how many litres Van Elk goes out with, because he can't go out with like 55 litres again. Just in case you missed it, Van Elk went out with about 17 litres more than Razy in the last race, which, although that wouldn't have been wholly responsible for his performance compared to Razy's, it would certainly not have been beneficial. If you're carrying 17 kilos extra, yeah, it's not a humongous weight, but it will alter how that car corners, it will alter ever so slightly how fast it goes, it will alter a lot of things which will come into it. Certainly weren't going to give him an advantage, especially when you're trying to defend. However, it is now done, and if it was a genuine mistake or a miss or an overlook on Van Elk's part, then it could be costly, mate. But what it has done is given us the finale that the neutral would like to watch. As C.O.T.A does another start, he's testing out his starts, everybody else is happily in the pits. And then, judging what C.O.T.A did in the last race, he got off to a good start. He got off to a flyer in the last race, so especially when you're coming from the back of the grid. So that's everybody in. So I think if we're looking at Flayboy there, looking at the looking at the track positions for this, then I can only assume that Playboy actually went into the pits before finishing the race, because I know he did go in the pits. He must have done, he went in the pits on the last lap. He must have done that before finishing the race. That's how they must have done it. Unless, of course, so we've got Joe at the front of the grid. I'm assuming that might change once we actually get out there. And the wonderfully named Jack Jones, hi. I'll say hi back, Jack. There you go, I'm a poet and I didn't know it. Terrible. It doesn't get any better, mate, honest. If you're expecting improvement, sorry. It's just not going to happen. I do try, honest, I really do. And people do say that I am very trying. And in fairness, Shane was saying there, take a practice lap. Yeah, I would have done the same, mate. I got to be honest. Again, you're running with different amount of fuel. I know it's only a small amount of weight, but it is. You're running with a different amount of fuel. And if you haven't had a good race last time, then you maybe just want that. Just put another couple of laps down. So I agree with you there. I would have done that. I would have definitely done that, even if that was all I did. Not bothered about putting down a time, but just to get back out there and just have a feel with the car as it is. If you maybe change something from race 1 to race 2, especially if race 1 wasn't exactly what you wanted it to be. If you want to try and make up some time, yeah, okay, better driving is one reason why you might do that, but also making 1 or 2 changes to your settings. So at the moment I've just got a countdown on my screen here for how many seconds we got left. So obviously what we wanted to try and look at was how much fuel people have got, but the thing is, what we have here, obviously from the end of this we've got a 2-minute standing part where people can just obviously put the right amount of fuel in for the start of the race. Just in case any of you guys were wondering, looking at the amount of fuel that there might be available and thinking, yeah, you aren't going to get to the first corner in that. But basically what we will have is the race, before everybody gets to go ready, they'll all be on the grid. There's a 2-minute countdown that allows people to be able to do last minute settings or to set pit stop strategies, things like that if they want to. And then obviously everyone goes ready, and once they all go ready, everybody syncs, the lights go red, and away we go onto the green and pedal hits the metal. So just to recap, an 8-lap shootout at the end of a 16 race GT3 season, made up of 8 rounds of 2 races each. Each round is a standard style race, which will be about a 45-50 minute race, there or thereabouts, and then the second race is always a sprint race, probably about 10-15 minute duration. In this case it's an 8-lap race, and we always go with a reverse grid from the first. So effectively what we've got here, it must have classed Playboy as not finishing the race, so we've got Playboy and Suki at the back of the grid because Suki didn't finish the last race either. The race winner, Razy Real, is in 5th. Second place in race 1, Rubito Diaro in 4th. Third place, Van Elk, so on and so forth. So effectively, it's like I say, it's an 8-lap shootout between Van Elk, who is starting this race in 3rd position in the Rainbow Lamborghini, as I'm going to call it. Technicolor Dream, somebody else might call it. But it's Rainbow Lamborghini in 3rd, Mr. Razy Real, who's in the Renault RS01. Whichever one of these guys can win this race takes the championship. If Van Elk wins it, he wins the championship. If Razy Real wins it and Van Elk comes second, they're level pegging on points. But Razy wins by virtue of countback, 4 race wins to 1. So Van Elk has to win, really. If Razy wins, the title's his. So nerves are probably, there we go. Nerves are probably twitching a little bit. I bet they're hoping there's got a commode in there, not a seat, because it really will be that twitchy. So 8 laps, all or nothing, championship up for grabs. So red lights, green for go, and away they go. And in all fairness there, I don't think Razy got a brilliant start there, but he's catching up now. Oh, where did Van Elk go? Van Elk just pulled right out to the right hand side, and he's Razy's car was levitating. I know the guy's getting to God status, but I mean that's ridiculous to see that he's levitating. But to be honest, I'm not quite sure what I saw with my own eyes there, because you've got Van Elk currently in second place, who seemed to pull right the way out to one side. I'd need to see that again really to know exactly what the hell happened there. But it looked like Van Elk came right out. Razy got a decent start, came into the bend, and I don't know whether it was Flayboy alongside Razy. I might be doing Van Elk a disservice there. It might have been Flayboy because I didn't notice whether it was a 157 or the 158 car. However, at the moment as we stand, all Razy's got to do is get past Van Elk, and at the moment he's not in the place where he'd like to have been, because he's got Rubito Diero between him and Van Elk, and when you've only got 8 laps, that's not a lot. So we're into lap 1. Joe Black's leading. Van Elk, the championship leader by 3 points, is in second place. Rubito Diero, who finished second in the last race, is in third. Razy Real, who is in second place in the championship, is fourth. And Flayboy is in fifth. Oh, Suki's just overtaken him as I said that, as we watch Van Elk catching up to Joe Black. Oh, he's just given Joe a nudge and Razy's just hit him in the back. And Van Elk's gone. Van Elk is gone. Well, talk about drama. You don't need to watch a BBC Period one to get drama. You can watch it here. And Suki's just gone as well, I think. So, right. This basically, inadvertently, this is kind of playing into Razy's hands a little bit. I don't think you can blame Razy for that one, because in all fairness, I think Van Elk caused his own downfall. I think Joe Black braked. Van Elk wasn't ready for it. He was right behind him. He shunted him up the back, which obviously slowed him right down. Razy didn't have anywhere to go. If a car stops dead, you've got no chance. So I don't think Razy had a chance to do anything. So I think, in all honesty, if I'm looking at having a steward's inquiry into that one, the only person I'm really going to blame, I think, is possibly Van Elk for shunting into Joe Black, which then causes a problem for Razy. I mean, from Razy's perspective, it's a race incident. I can't see him being held to account for anything there. Personally, that's my opinion, and I'm sure that will hold water, because to me, what can you do if a car stops dead in front of you? Not a lot. Anyway, I think Flayboy's been evaporated. He's disappeared to another dimension, otherwise possibly known as a pit lane. He may have retired. I haven't even got him on my graphic, so I don't know whether he may have just disappeared through a black hole or something. He's just gone, never to be seen again. Well, probably until next week. Anyway, lap 2 of 8. Fair play to Joe Black. Finished last in the last race, but he's holding himself together in this one. But I think our championship runner-up at the moment will be taking him. So basically, just to recap, if Razy gets to overtake Joe Black and stays there, he wins the GT3 championship. It's his. And that doesn't look an easy ride at the moment, because Joe's performing pretty good in this race. Again, you know, Joe's just put in a 2:18 lap. Razy's put in a 2:17.7. He's gonna. Oh, Razy's spun. He's spun. Oh, this is total drama. You can't take your eyes off this one, guys. This is definitely drama at its finest. But Razy needs that first place. He needs that first place. Because at the moment he's in second. Van Elk is third. There's a 2-point difference. So Van Elk still wins as a traffic cone decides to do a triple Salchow. The Razy needs that first place. It's all the difference. It's 1 point, but it makes the difference. If Razy gets up to first, he makes up that 3-point difference. That wins in the title on countback. If he doesn't get up into first, if he can't take Joe in the next 5 laps, then Van Elk, even if Van Elk sits there in third, he still wins the title by a point. So, in all fairness, it's there all to do. And hello from Wingless Chip. Hiya mate, glad you could join us. Like I say, this is the penultimate, it is the ultimate, it is the finale of the GT3 season in GAVRA Racing. And who you're looking at now is Razy Real. He won the first race at a canter. He won it by 40 odd seconds. He was lapping at least 2 seconds better than everybody else. And just as I say that, I've given him the kiss of death. He's just spun. Oh my God. Oh. And he's just been hit. Is he going to throw it all away in this race? Because Van Elk is now in front of him. He could have passed the title back to Van Elk, because Van Elk is 3 points ahead of Razy Real, who you're seeing there. And Van Elk is now in second. Razy needs to win and have Van Elk second for him to win the championship. Van Elk, if he finishes in front of Razy, it's all she wrote. Put a fork in it, it's done. He wins the title, that's his. But everything can happen in 4 laps, trust me. Anything can happen in 1 lap in this. It can all happen. Just when you think everything's going one way, it could be anything, trust me. And Wingless Chip saying good content, thanks mate. I hope you that's really nice of you. And my teammate is doing all the directing, so in all fairness, we're like Batman and Robin. You can be Robin. but not Laurel and Hardy, not Abbott and Costello. They're like bacon and egg. Yeah, absolutely. So, in the meantime, this is not the race I thought it was going to be, I've got to be fair. So, we've got Joe Black leading. He's led right from the beginning. He started on pole position as it was a reverse grid. So he came last in the previous race. So, to put it into context, he's held on to his lead. In fact, he's not just held on to it, he's doing really, really well. He's having a cracking race. Van Elk, at the moment, is in championship winning position in second place. In third place is Suki, who was unfortunate enough in the first race not to be able to complete it due to a wonderful internet connection. And in fourth place is Razy Real, who is 5 seconds behind Van Elk. I think the pressure has told a little bit. Not doing the guy a disservice, because he was absolutely faultless in race 1. 24 faultless laps of the Circuit of the Americas. Absolutely faultless. I couldn't give him a better plaudit than that. However, this race unfortunately has not gone to plan, and because it's only an 8-lap race, you make a mistake in this race, it's very, very difficult to make redress. As you can see, Razy was just coming through the corner there as we're looking at Van Elk, who is the champion in waiting, if you like, for want of better words. Just coming up alongside Joe Black, who's taking that corner really, really narrow. He will lose pace and Van Elk will carry more pace through that corner, so I wouldn't be surprised if he gains on him. Not quite getting close enough, he is now, because he'll carry the straight line speed out there from the corner as he takes the chicane here. I mean, I would imagine that the Lambo handles a bit easier than the AMG, just by nature of wheelbase and weight distribution in the car. However, I think Van Elk's looking to go out with a bang with a win, At some point he's going to take Joe. It certainly looks it from here. He's having a look. He's certainly having a look. Was there a bit of bumper cars there? I'm not sure if there was a bit of a bumper touch. But also Suki's coming into the mix. This could make it interesting. Suki's run around in 2:14 there. Razy's done in 2:16. He's not replicated the 2:09 he did in qualifying for race 1. He needs to find some pace and needs to find it fast. Because you've got 3 laps. He's got 3 and a bit laps left. And in that 3 and a bit laps, he's got to make up 2.5 seconds. He's already made up 2 and a bit seconds because he was 5 seconds down. So this is a real concerted effort from Mr. Razy Real, because he knows if he can, but it's not enough for him to get past Van Elk. He's got to win. It's not enough for him to get past Van Elk. He's got to win the race. He has to win the race, because if he gets past Van Elk into second, he would get 12 points. Van Elk would get 10. That means Van Elk would win the championship by 1 point. The smallest possible margin that you could ever win something by. However, it's 1 point. It may as well be 100 million points. It will still make the difference as Razy slipstreams behind Suki and gets past. He's on a charge. He's definitely on a charge. He's only 2 points. He's 2.5 seconds off the lead now. Oh, as Suki runs out. I wonder if that was because she lost traction because she was in the slipstream of Razy after passing. And then obviously because the back end looked as if it went a bit, so I reckon a bit of a downforce had gone. And trust me guys, it does that in this game. It is realistic enough, it does that. Even the track is live in this game. You've got to feed it twice a day. But he's getting back to, not back to where he was. I mean, it's 2:15.1. He's got 10.9 litres in the car, so he's probably running. He's running on minimal. He's going to get there. He's catching Van Elk. He's going to catch Van Elk. The thing is, does he catch Joe Black? Does he catch Joe Black? Because I mean, Van Elk needs to do everything within the rules defensively to defend his position, and he needs to defend his position massively. This is a real test. This is what you want. Very last race, these two guys neck and neck in the championship. The guy who's behind has to push, has to win. As Razy takes wide there, he's probably trying to look to see if he could get the inside line coming back around. He's trying to get a better line and take the pace, which I think he's got. He's gone a bit wide there, but that gives him a bit more pace coming around this corner. But the thing is, with this game, again, like I say, it's realistic. The difficult thing is when you're slipstreaming somebody, you can lose that little bit of downforce. So Razy's coming in here. He's going to make a move. He's going to make a move soon. He's got two full laps after this now as they're just coming down. He's got 2 full laps after this. Now is Joe Black holding up Van Elk? That's another question. As Van Elk takes a look at him. Van Elk's coming out. He's going to take a look. I reckon he's going to try and take the outside first and then take the inside on the next one. Which he did, but he had to slow him. Razy's right alongside him. He is right alongside him. Just don't crash, guys. That's just going to be really anticlimactic. And I mean, Razy got right up behind it there, lost a little bit of ground. He needs to take it easy, and there's 2 laps left. He's going to get chances because he's lapping faster. He's lapping faster than Van Elk, but trust me, the nerves are going to be going. Every sinew is going to be straining. He's definitely going to need a change of underwear as Van Elk nearly touches on with Joe Black there. Razy's going to take him, I think. He's going to take him here. He's going to take him on the inside. Is he going to pull? He is. Now it's a question of, oh, what? That was a sneaky manoeuvre from Van Elk there. I don't know whether that was in the braking zone or not. but he moved right across. I mean, that's defending at its yeah, that's defending. Razy's giving him a flash there. He's going to move again. He's moving out. He's moving. He's got the straight line speed, but has he got enough? Yeah, he's definitely got it here. That's a good movement. That's a good manoeuvre. But he needs to take Joe Black. He needs to take Joe. He's got to get past Joe. He knows now that Van Elk behind him in third still wins the title if these places stay as they are. There's 1 point in it. Van Elk wins by 1 point otherwise. So Razy's got. He's he's lost it. Oh, Van Elk spun. Van Elk. Oh, they both spun. Oh my God. Oh my God. They will both be going mental. Oh my God. Oh no. You just. Like I said before, this is more drama than upstairs, downstairs, I tell you. For those of you that are old enough to remember it. Oh, that's done him. That's done him. It's, oh, what a way to do it, man. What a way to do it. That must have been such a massive shift of emotion from seeing your rival spin, thinking everything's absolutely stonkingly brilliant, and then in a split second you spin and everything just goes down the pan. Oh, I'd love to be a fly inside. No, I wouldn't like to be a fly actually, but I'd just love to know what Razy was saying during those 2 or 3 seconds. I'm sure it went from euphoria to absolute doom. Basically now we're on lap 8 of 8. Razy's into 4th. It's a commendable effort. He's really tried his heart out to pull out all the stops and do it here. But barring an absolute disaster. Oh, Razy tried to come up on Joe. I don't know whether did he back off? Oh, he's got to keep going. I think Joe's done the nice thing and let him through there. But he's got 5.7 seconds to make up. He's got in half a lap. He needs Van Elk to spin. It's not that you'd wish that on anybody. You wouldn't wish that on anyone. He needs Van Elk to spin, and well, he needs C.O.T.A to spin too. He's over 6 seconds behind. He needs to win this race, and at the moment, as they're coming down, he needs Van Elk and C.O.T.A to spin to be able to win it, which is it's not going to happen. Van Elk should have learnt his lesson from spinning out on the last one. In fairness, Razy probably spun out because he was trying to get that extra little bit out, and he'd worked like a Trojan to try and bring that back. But ultimately, all that effort's been doomed to failure. It's a very fine line between pushing things to the limit. So anyway, lap 8 of 8 into the final corner, and Van Elk is going to take it in the way that he wanted. Van Elk he's let C.O.T.A take the win. He's let C.O.T.A take the win because he still won by 5 points. It didn't matter where he finished. So the plaudits go to C.O.T.A B-Spec for taking the win in the last race of GT3 for this season. Van Elk, congratulations on, shall we say, probably the most consistent championship of all the guys that have been in this. If you look at the two graphs for Van Elk and Razy Real, they're very different, and in the fact that Van Elk's was very much done over the course of the season, with Razy not starting off brilliantly, but obviously coming good towards the last. Have we got a 2-second penalty for Van Elk there? Yeah. We got a 2-second penalty, but he's still obviously held. I think that's why he let C.O.T.A through, because C.O.T.A was going to have that anyway with his 2-second penalty. But even so, he still finishes ahead of Razy even if Razy had finished second and Van Elk third, it would have still been one agonising point. Just one agonising point. So, to sum things up in what I can only say was an incredibly eventful 2 races. It's hard to sum up. It was amazing. If you've been with us all night, we started off. Van Elk had a 12-point lead over Razy Real going into this. Realistically, Razy had to win both races and hope for the best. Threw the gauntlet down in race 1, put down a 2:09 lap time, which was storming. Followed that up by storming the race. Won the race at a canter. And then, obviously, Van Elk finished third, which meant there was a 3-point gap going into race 2. If Razy won race 2, the title was his. Van Elk just needed to finish behind Razy, as long as Razy didn't win, for him to win the title. And obviously, race 2 only had 8 laps, but what it lacked in laps, it made up for in drama, without a shadow of a doubt. I think I had in my mind that the folklore of like a Lewis Hamilton last lap overtake to win the title or something like that. I thought that was a possibility that was in the offing, but as it was, it looked as if it was going to happen, and then the championship leader spun, and in a split second, so did Razy. The two of them both spun at that point. Unfortunately for Razy, his spin was a bit worse, and he lost that time and only had 4 laps to try and make it back. And as much as he made a hell of an effort, if the race had been 20 laps, I don't doubt he could have done it. But it wasn't 20 laps, it was 8 laps. And unfortunately, it was a bridge too far. However, what I will say is congratulations to everyone who's taken part in this championship for making it what it is and making GAVRA Racing what it is. If you liked what you saw, guys, go on to the gavraracing.altavista.org website. Just put in GAVRA Racing into Google or any other search engine that you may wish to use instead, because I'm not getting paid by any of these dudes, so why should I favour any of them? So just put it in on there, have a look at the website, have a wander around. You can register yourself, you can get in on there, have a look, see what we're all about. Also, the GAVRA Racing YouTube channel. Again, just go in there, put in GAVRA Racing, or GAVRA League, I believe, if you put in on the YouTube channel. You can view some of our races, including this one, if you want to watch it again. It was worth it, wasn't it? I know the BBC like doing repeats, but this was worth it. Some things are worth being repeated, some things aren't. This is one of those on the tick list. So, like I say, you can go onto the website, have a look at all of that, look at some of our races, see what we're all about. If you like what you see, join us. Go onto the PlayStation Network community. You can go on there, you can join us from there. You can go on the website, you can join us from there. Get yourself registered for the GAVRA Academy. We've got 27 people lined up now to start in the new year, because we all start again second week of January. I think we're starting on the 15th of January, so you know, once you've got your Christmas booze and your Christmas food down your neck and you're feeling a bit fat, then forget about the exercise and going down the gym. Park your backside down in front of your race wheel and do some serious racing with GAVRA Racing. That's what you want to do. You will get fit because your nerves will be strewn because you're doing proper racing, and it's all good. So anyway, on behalf of my race director for this evening, who is for this evening Mr. Buxton Boy 91, that's giving his age away, isn't it? Anyway, on behalf of him and for me, the wonderfully named Who Farted, and no, it wasn't me, it was definitely somebody else. On behalf of us, have a great Christmas, have a cracking New Year. Don't drink too much unless you really want to. Don't eat too much unless you really want to. Spend loads of money, have loads of presents, enjoy yourself, come back and see us in the new year. If you want to join us, get on the website, join up with the Academy, and we'll see you all soon. Adios amigos, have a good one. Ta-da.